Hello and welcome to Friday Night Football on PlayOnSports.com. It's the PlayOnSports.com pregame show live from Eastlake High School in Sammamish, Washington. I'm Alex Webster with Scott Eklund on your destination for high school sports, PlayOnSports.com. Tonight's matchup features the visiting Inglemoor Vikings against the host Eastlake Wolves. Inglemoor comes into tonight's contest with an overall record of 0-4, while the home team Eastlake is 1-3. Glad you could join us here tonight. Friday Night Football, and it is a fantastic night, about 68 degrees here as we near kickoff. And Scott, this is an interesting matchup. Perhaps if we played it 365 days ago, this would have been one of the top games to look at here in this region. But this year, a couple of teams that have been snake bit. In Eastlake, they've had all kinds of transitions as they've lost 22 of their starters, all of them from last year's team that went to the state playoffs. Meanwhile, Inglemoor has been battling through injuries. So it's been an interesting start for both these teams. Add on top of that, Eastlake has had to they turned over their coach two games into the season when Gene Dales decided that he needed to take some time away from the team. And Pat Parnell, in his first year, a youngster at 26 years of age, was the defensive coordinator. Now he's also got head coaching duties. Yeah, and he was a coach that actually some people confused for one of the players. The first, when he first came out on the field as a assistant coach, and he's a young guy, but he's energetic, which is something you always get with the younger guys. And he's kind of feeling his way, but the players have really seemed to buy into it. I went to their game last week against Bothell. They played Bothell, which is a pretty good team, pretty strongly last week. They didn't end up winning, but they showed that while they've suffered some of this adversity, they've been able to manage it and get some wins. They really destroyed Seattle Prep a couple weeks ago. That was their one win on the season. And so far, we're just kind of seeing what they can be and what they can do with all this adversity. Yep. That'll wrap up our PlayOnSports.com pregame show. We'll be right back with the kickoff in just a few moments. Friday Night Football begins next on your destination for high school sports, PlayOnSports.com.
We can get a player up here.
Oh, that's good stuff.
All right, perfect. Prepare a Wiley Ballard graphic.
Do you want me to start the stream?
Start the stream. Camera 3. Beautiful. Oh, we're coming in on 1.
For more information on how your school can join the Play On School broadcast program, go to playonsports.com/SBP.
We can get a player up here.
Oh, that's good stuff.
Welcome back to Friday Night Football on PlayOnSports.com, coming to you live from Sammamish, Washington. I'm Alex Webster with Scott Eklund on your destination for high school sports, PlayOnSports.com. Tonight's matchup featuring the 0-4 Inglemoor Vikings visiting the 1-3 Eastlake Wolves. And the Wolves will be in the home crimson and forest green, and the Inglemoor Vikings in the long time black and gold. They'll, of course, have the white jerseys on tonight. But Inglemoor is down a few players, and that has really been the story of their season thus far. They've had a lot of injuries to a lot of key players, and the season is just getting going into conference play. Yeah, Mikey Dupeau is one of their leaders on defense as well as the whole team, and he hasn't been in a game yet. He fractured his foot during the pre-fall camp and things like that, and he hasn't been able to play. They're also out one of their best running backs, Ken Holen, who had accounted for quite a few yards. He was injured in last week's game, so they're missing some of their key components. They're hoping to get a few of the guys back in here in the next couple weeks and at least make their senior seasons something to remember. But at this point, they're just going with what they have. And, of course, the coaching staffs in this one, at least the head coaches. Frank Nash, in his 34th year, is the offensive coordinator and athletic director at Inglemoor. But in stark contrast, the gentleman that is in just his third game at the helm of the Eastlake program, Pat Parnell, who had to take over a couple games in, you've got longevity and you've got novelty of the newness that's taking place. But both these teams trying to find the uptick. Yeah, and both of them have talent. There's no question about that. These are both two very storied programs.
Eastlake, more of the storied program recently just because they were ranked number 1 for most of the year last year. But Inglemoor has had all that solid talent come out of there as well. So this should be a good matchup of some old-time teams.
Here come the Eastlake Wolves to kick it off. Zachary Steinberg will put a big right foot into this one and into the end zone, and the Vikings can do nothing other than bring it out to the 20, and that's where they will set up shop. And the Vikings will run a two-headed quarterback. It's Hans Fortune who gets the start typically. He is a tall drink of water at 6'6", 197 pounds. He'll switch some time with Brandon Edwards, but they've got a couple of good backs in Nick Russell and Jake Jones.
Yeah, and Jake Jones is the guy really to keep an eye on. Number 5 for this Inglemoor team. He's bigger kids, 5'9", 200 pounds, and can really move the ball between the tackles if he can find some room.
They work out of the pistol, but here they'll take it from under center, and Fortune will pitch it back, and not much gained as the Wolves quick to collapse as on the carry, Reese Duringer for the Vikings. He's another one that will see some time at that running back spot. 5'11", 165-pounder is Duringer. No gain, and it'll bring up 2nd and 10.
Yeah, on that play, Eastlake was able to get outside and keep him from getting all the way to the corner, and when he tried to cut it back, they had good backside pursuit.
They'll work under center. They do run the spread here, and we'll see him operate out of the pistol later. This is a lateral, so keep an eye deep. The double pass. They've got a man, and it's deflected away at the last second, but they had him open. And that one for the Eastlake Wolves, good coverage, at least by Jeffrey Feinglass, as he was able to catch up and I think get a finger on the ball.
And there you see the youth of the Eastlake Wolves, but also the athleticism. He's only a 10th grader. That's something that maybe as a senior he's not fooled on something like that, but he let the man get behind him, but he was able to catch up with his speed and his athleticism.
Eastlake, a team that won 10 games last year. They were KingCo champs, and then they lost all 22 starters from last year, so youth being served here on the Wolves, and they're having some growing pains in the process, just 1-3 and 0-1 in conference play. Here's Fortune out of the shotgun, got a lot of room, finds the man underneath, trying to get ahead for the first down. He'll get some yards, but I think he's going to be a little bit short. There is a hanky down on the field on the far side, so the officiating crew will get a look at this one, a conversation, and we'll see what they have. The referee in this one is Warren Morrison. LaMarcus Ford is the umpire. Dave Fleischman is the linesman. The line judge is Jerry Horn, and the back judge is Kevin Backlund.
Great pursuit there from the backside by the Wolves, led by Tyler Ackerman, number 19. He's a tight end and a linebacker DN prospect out here, and really pursued well, able to make the tackle for little to no gain.
Ineligible man downfield was the call, and as a result, that play took a lot of time to develop, and finally they found the man underneath, but somebody had wandered a little bit too far downfield. They'll redo the down, it appears. Nope, they're going to keep the yardage. They're going to decline the penalty, which I would have thought because it brings up 4th down.
Yeah, and Feinglass will now drop back, and he's a dangerous punt returner with his speed and quickness.
Jeffrey Feinglass listed as a wide receiver and a safety. 5'11", 175-pounder. Here's the kick, and it's almost blocked. Willie Augustavo does the kicking and the punting for the Vikings. He gets off a good one here. Feinglass weaving his way into some white shirts, gets up past the 40 and up close to the 44-yard line. That's where they'll spot it, and that's where the Wolves will have it to start their first offensive possession of the game.
Yeah, great return there. Had men around him, but still was able to find some room and get at least positive yardage. Got up about 9 yards on that return.
We talked about youth in the Eastlake Wolves, and it's exampled right here by the quarterback and running back combination. The quarterback, Richard Blue Thomas, just a sophomore, 5'11", 185-pounder. And Drew Lewis, he's a good one, a junior running back, 6'1", 190 pounds. For the class of 2014, he's right up there near the top here in the state.
Yeah, he is. He comes from great pedigree. His brother is signed with Pitt last year, and he's now second string on Pitt's as a true freshman, so he's a great running back. Ryan Lewis rushed for almost 1,500 yards last year, I believe. And, Drew Lewis is not quite the same kind of athlete, only from the standpoint that he's taller than Ryan Lewis was. So he actually almost looks like a wide receiver out there because he's only 190 pounds, but he can definitely run with the rock.
So Richard Thomas will operate out of the shotgun, brings a man in motion as they have 4 receivers in the set. Quick pass to the right side, got an open running lane, a first down and some more. Into Viking territory goes the receiver. Gage Castle, the receiver on that one, a 5'11 junior, 175-pounder, sprinting up the right sideline for that first down.
Great look right there. They just get it out on a quick hitter to get Blues feet underneath him, and good, easy completion right there.
Well, they go with the give to Drew Lewis here. Minimal yardage. He gets about 1.5 yards. It'll bring up second down. The Wolves, defending KingCo champions, they lost in the second round of the state playoffs last year, winning 10 games for head coach Gene Dales, who was in his 8th year here before he got 2 games into the season. He had his father pass away, and his wife was suffering from some maladies, and he needed to spend some more time. He could not devote the focus needed to be the head coach here at Eastlake, and I know that was a very difficult decision for him as well as for the team, but they responded very well with a big win over Seattle Prep that following week, then ran into the Bothell Cougars, who were very hungry after an 0-3 start themselves. Minimal pickup on that second down play. It'll bring up third and long for Eastlake, but we wish the best to Gene Dales and his family and hope that he can return to coaching as soon as his life will enable him to do so. Trips to the near side. Fling to the right side. That is Lewis. He's got a lane, and he's got a first down inside the 20-yard line, close to the 17.
18-yard gain on that quick hitter right there. Found a seam and was able to split the defense and made a great play out of it.
And they go with the no huddle here as they bring everybody to the line quickly before the chains can even get set. And that's one of those things that will slow down a no huddle, is sometimes on those first downs, the chain crew doesn't work as quickly as you'd like them to. Here's the handoff to Lewis again, and this one, he's able to break a tackle and get a good chunk of yardage after first contact.
And right on that play, Blue was hit by Titus Mocassini, the best player on the Inglemoor team, number 68, big defensive line, offensive line prospect. He's a senior, 6'5", 265. Can really run for a man his size. Was named 4A KingCo offensive lineman and defensive lineman of the year.
And he's one of those Vikings to watch. Here is a great pass play from Blue Thomas, and it's good for a first down and near the goal line. Not sure who the receiver was, but it's good for the first down. Jeff Feinglass with the reception on that one. It's first and goal at the 3-yard line, and look for a power formation here for the Eastlake Wolves as they will bring in a fullback and linebacker, Carson Irola, 5'9", 200-pound junior, and nothing doing on this play here. Perhaps even lost a little bit of yardage. So perhaps Titus Mocassini helping to lead the charge from that defensive line spot.
Yeah, Mocassini can really bring it. The problem with him is he just has not got it done in the classroom, so schools haven't come after him like they probably would have had he been doing that. But he's definitely a guy to keep an eye on and will definitely cause problems for whatever offense he faces.
Jake Jones is another good one at safety back there as well. But right here, it's a battle of wills down near the goal line. Thomas with a pass, and it looks to be incomplete.
First incompletion there, and something that you want to see him kind of drive on that ball because he had a man wide open in the end zone on that. There's no need to throw that low, so that was just him being anxious and not really using his mechanics like he's been taught.
8:37 to go in the opening quarter. The Wolves, with their first touch of the football, driving the length of the field, but have it third and goal from the 3. The Vikings trying to push them back here. Thomas flushed, rolling, has a man. It's incomplete. And we'll see what the Wolves opt to do. They've been down here 3 yards away for 3 consecutive plays and could not get it in. But I don't see a kicker coming off of the sideline, at least not yet, for Eastlake.
It looked like Thomas could actually have run for that. I don't know if what he saw. I mean, his man was breaking open, but that's a tough pass. It looked like he could run for that, but made the decision to throw it, was incomplete, and so now we're going to face a 4th down here.
And I think right now in a ball game that they're striving to get their first divisional win here in the KingCo for a Crest division. They want to get up on that scoreboard, but right now they're going to go out of a I formation, heavy set with Two receivers to the right. They bring it the opposite way, the wide side of the field, and there's no room for Drew Lewis. The Vikings playing tough at the goal line. Stop the Wolves on their first offensive series.
Reese Duringer comes up and makes the play from his linebacker position, and then has his teammates following up to make sure that Lewis went down, and really well strung out by them.
So for the Vikings, a huge stop here early in this one after the Wolves had it on cruise control, eating up yardage, but could not punch it in from 3 yards out on 4 tries. Here's Fortune with the handoff on the carry. Jake Jones trying to turn the corner, and he won't quite do it, but he'll get a good chunk of yardage, a gain of about 8, maybe 9.
And right there you saw the vision that Jake Jones brings to the table. Broke it outside, was able to get out there and give them a second and short. Now they have options to work with in their playbook. They don't have to just go and try and throw it like they did on almost every down last series.
Second down and 1 now from the 13-yard line. Out of that pistol formation, they hand it off again. And this one is stuffed in the middle. Whole host of red jerseys, crimson red and forest green jerseys of the Eastlake Wolves, helping to turn that one back. It'll bring up 3rd and short.
And right there, Duringer just couldn't find the hole. The hole actually opened up to his right, and he just didn't see it, and so ran up right up. They call it running up the back of your lineman, and that's what he kind of did in that play.
So Inglemoor out of the spread formation here. 2 receivers to either side, just trying to pick up a yard. Quick fling to the near side. It's complete for the first down, and the Wolves trying to strip it. They do, but jumping back up on top of it was the receiver, Eric Strathy, a 6'5 senior with the catch. Did he get it? No. We're waiting for the official call. The Wolves say they've got it. The officials are conferring on the near sideline, as it looked like Strathy had gotten back on it, and the referee, Warren Morrison, asking the Wolves to kindly step back, and the Vikings do get back on top of it. But you could tell there are a whole host of crimson jerseys there that had a whole nother opinion.
Yeah, and if you're the Viking coaches, you're bringing Strathy back over and saying, high and tight, you want to hold that tight to your chest, because he was clearing it out there like a loaf of bread. It got hit and got on the field, but he was lucky to fall right on top of it.
Good for the first down. And that's the first one of the game for the Vikings. They'll empty the backfield here as Hans Fortune, the lateral, sniffed out well by the Wolves. It'll be a loss of 5, maybe 6 yards. Good defense by Eastlake.
Yeah, great swarming defense, and that's what Eastlake is known for. They swarm to the ball. They have a lot of athletic guys playing linebacker and safety that really fly around, and the corners like to come up and run support as well. That's something you're not going to get wide on Eastlake very often. More often than not, where you're going to really hit them is straight up the middle.
Last week, Inglemoor fell behind on the opening play from scrimmage, but battled back on a safety and some running by Nick Russell to take an 8-7 lead, but that was all they'd get as they would fall to Woodinville eventually by a final score of 34-14.
Yeah, that's a big rivalry up there, and something that people in that area really get jazzed up for, because Inglemoor, Woodinville, and Bothell all use Pop Keeney Stadium up there, which is one of my favorite stadiums to go to in the state for their atmosphere that they have there, and that's a big rivalry game.
Of course, both these two teams playing at Pop Keeney last week. Last Friday night, it was Inglemoor losing to Woodinville, and then last Saturday night, it was Bothell taking care of Eastlake. So both these teams hoping that the friendly confines here, perhaps of Eastlake High School, and the stadium here will be just the tonic they need for a victory. Inglemoor, 3rd and 13 after the last play, getting minimal gain. Fortune rolling out, too high, and out of bounds as he was looking for Eric Strathy one more time on this sideline. And for Inglemoor, it was 1 first down, and now they'll have to kick.
Yeah, Strathy was bracketed by Liam Doyle and Jeffrey Feinglass right there. That wasn't an easy throw. He looked like if he had been a little more patient that his wide receiver was going to break open in the middle of the field because of the way the defense was rolling to it, but decided to make the throw, and now we're looking at 4th down.
Willie Augustavo on for his second punt, and calling for the fair catch and making it is Jeffrey Feinglass. And so the Eastlake Wolves, who on their opening possession drove down to the 3-yard line but had 4 tries and were turned away each time by the Vikings. They'll get their second shot at it here with 5:09 to go and a scoreless first quarter of play from the Plateau here in Sammamish, Washington.
And it's neon night for the faithful here at Eastlake High School. We got the student section right in front of us, so if you see the camera kind of bouncing a little bit, it's because the fans are pretty rowdy right down here. They have a very good following here, and it's something that you have to really be proud of as a community out here. You've got, we kind of mentioned this last time we were on up at Eastlake High School. You have Eastlake High School, Eastside Catholic, and Skyline all within a mile of each other up here, and this place gets very crowded when all 3 of them have home games.
Well, and right now, Skyline, the top team in the 4A classification, they're 4-0. Eastside Catholic 4-0, and they are ranked 4th in the 3A classification. And Eastlake a year ago, they were a top contender, undefeated at this point, but right now looking for their first conference win. And there they get a great gain on the pass play from Blue Thomas. And the Eastlake Wolves will set up shop on their second play from scrimmage in this drive in Inglemoor territory.
Cam Nelson got great position on that route. Nice 5-yard slant that he turned into about a 14-yard gain.
So far, Blue Thomas has the offense humming. They've just struggled in the red zone in the early going. Thomas shuffles the feet, looks high. He had a man engage Castle, but he was well covered.
Yeah, that was great coverage there by the safety for Inglemoor, and something that you want to maybe, he had plenty more time to wait for that to break open because it looked like Castle could have gotten open if he had been able to go a little bit further. But, you know, it's easy for us to sit up here and say this. We don't know how the route's designed. We don't know exactly where the coaches have coached him to throw the ball. But he had plenty of time to make that throw.
Right now, Eastlake and Inglemoor 0-1 in Crest Division action. The winner here can stay in the hunt. The loser, it might be tough. Here's a big run. It's Drew Lewis. He smells the end zone. Touchdown, Eastlake. But there is a flag down back at the 33-yard line.
And I don't think the faithful here see the flag. I think they just now noticed it. Everybody was high-fiving each other, but it looks like this is probably going to be coming back. We'll see.
Well, we'll have to see if when Lewis got into the secondary, he had a blocker over on that side. Are they going to call a hold? We'll have to wait and see, but it's definitely coming back. And a sideline warning.
Oh, I guess they are giving him a touchdown.
They are. It is a touchdown. It is a sideline warning against Inglemoor, or penalty thereabouts. So the Wolves capitalize on the long touchdown run from Drew Lewis and take a 6-0 lead with the try for point coming.
And as you can see, he's very dynamic with the ball in his hands. Made a spin move on a tackler there right at the line of scrimmage and was able to get that.
And we'll see what the Wolves do here as they have that spread kick formation. And now they bring it all together, and we'll give a try to Zachary Steinberg for the extra point. And this one is up, and it is good. So with 4:35 to go in the first quarter, a touchdown run for the Eastlake Wolves, courtesy of Drew Lewis.
Yeah, and on that play, what they try to do is they want to get him outside of the tackle and let him kind of make a play out there. And what he did was he made the safety miss that had come up to make the play, and then it was just a race to the end zone.
A good run of about 40 yards thereabouts. 44, in fact, for the touchdown. And that is kind of the weapon that these Wolves possess. Youth, but it's gaining experience game by game by game.
Yeah, and Lewis will definitely be a kid to keep an eye on for the coming year. I mean, this year he's going to put up big numbers. Didn't have a huge game last week when I watched him, but he has put up good numbers so far this year, about 400 yards rushing in 4 games. But today, you know, he's already up to about 50 yards already, and we're not even out of the first quarter yet.
So Steinberg getting ready to kick off for the Wolves on a gorgeous night for football here on the final weekend of September. A harvest moon high above the stadium with temperatures in the 60s, no threat of rain. an absolutely wonderful night for Friday Night Football here on PlayOnSports.com. 4:35 to go in the first quarter. Here is the kick from Zachary Steinberg, and it's an onside kick. Did they get on it? Did it go far enough? We'll see.
No, it looks like they covered it too quickly.
And so the onside kick try goes for naught for Eastlake, trying to get the Vikings napping, as right now the Wolves have been able to drive on both their possessions. They just missed getting into the end zone the first time, and the second time a no-doubter from Drew Lewis. They're trying to get possession again, but left it short on the onside try, and so the Vikings, their best field position of the game.
Yeah, and up until now, Eastlake had kind of won the field position battle, but now Inglemoor's got a chance. Maybe they get some momentum, able to get some things going here, because they do have the athletes to be able to make something out of this. Let's just see what happens.
A good crew of tall receivers. Hans Fortune pitching it back, and here's a man with an open sideline. Good for a first down on the carry. Reese Duringer, he's had about 3 carries thus far in this game and has had positive yardage on most of them. This is good enough for the first down on an 11-yard carry. Make it a 13-yard carry. Down to the 35.
And on that play, great blocking out there outside. They always say that big runs are made by the wide receivers. And on that one, you see what happens when you have receivers blocking downfield. He was able to get out to the second level and get some positive yardage for him.
Fortune and the Vikings. Here's the handoff right in the middle. Good hole. I believe the carry from Jake Jones.
And Jones is really your in-between the tackles kind of guy. That was a gain of 6 right there, and he's a guy who's going to make yards after contact. That's something coaches are always looking for. They're looking for a guy who runs behind his pads, and that just refers to keeping your pad level low, using the full body weight when you're getting hit, so that when you do get hit, you're always falling forward instead of backwards.
Good pickup. A 7-yard pickup. Second down and 3. Fortune, the handoff to Jones again, trying to get outside the tackle. He does. To the sideline, gets the first down, and has the Vikings in the red zone for the first time tonight.
And that was a great power play that they call, where they pulled the guard out and got him out in front of Jones on that one. And he was able to get a very huge gain on that one.
16-yard pickup, they say. 3:29 to go with the clock stopped as he ran out of bounds. 1st and 10 from the 16-yard line. Well, if it ain't broke, why fix it? They give it to Jones again. This time, a little less room as the Vikings defense stiffens up here on this first down offering.
Good stuff in the middle there by the interior defensive lineman for the Wolves in there, and then they had the linebacker being able to clean up on that. Carson Irola.
The Vikings with 2 receivers to the near side, 1 to the far side. They look for Strathey at the 10-yard line. He's got it. Is inside the 5 and out of bounds, or just down inbounds at the 4. Good for the first down.
Good look right there. Quick hitter. I always like those curl routes when you got a guy sitting at a 7 to 8 yard cushion that they're giving you. Just curl it up at 5 yards, and that's what he did.
Is that a case of taking what they're giving you?
Yeah, pretty much. When it comes to high school football, it isn't always just about making plays. It's about being smart with the ball and making good decisions. And that right there was a great decision by Fortune, just to take what the defense gave you, as you said.
Strathey isolated one-on-one to the left side of the field, that high side of the field. They give to Jones, and he trips on the turf and falls down for no gain. Well, tough break. He had a little bit of room in there.
He did trip on the turf, but Eric Harper got knifed in there from his linebacker spot and was able to at least give him some help falling to the ground.
Always worth giving the tackle there to the man closest, and, of course, the guy knifing in to just get that shoestring, whatever that might be. Again, Strathey split out high to the top of the screen. 2nd down and 5, or 2nd and goal from the 5. They give it to 5, and he's close to the goal line, and he's in. Jake Jones, a 5-yard touchdown run. with 1:50 to go. And the Vikings are able to answer the Eastlake touchdown a moment ago.
That was a great drive, great answer drive by Inglemoor, and it just shows you that this team, while they've struggled, they're 0-4, they still have a lot of heart. They don't get down on themselves. The coaching there at Inglemoor is very good. They're very experienced. They know what they're doing. Just got to keep these kids focused, because as they get healthier, they're going to be a tough out for some of these teams.
Willie Augustivo with the try, and it is up, and it is good. So with 1:50 to go in our opening quarter, it was slow to get going, but it's finally underway. Both teams on the scoreboard were even at 7. And if you want to watch more of your school's great matchups like the game you're enjoying here tonight, tell your school to sign up for the Play on Sports School Broadcast Program. The program allows schools to broadcast all their games and other activities on the web. For more information, go to playonsports.com/SBP. Good mix of pass and run on that drive, which, of course, was set up in Eastlake territory by the onside kick try that went awry.
Yeah, it was, and that's just a gamble. And honestly, Eastlake had that. It was a good gamble. They had it. They just picked up the ball a little too early because Inglemoor really bailed on that. Now you're going to keep their blockers, the guys on their front line, because you did that. Now they're not going to be able to run back and really set up a wedge for you anymore. And now you have a chance to get these Inglemoor kick returners on shorter returns and things like that. But as you noted, though, it's 7-all. And now it's just a new ball game. They're just ready to even up. It's evened up, and both of them have momentum. Let's see what they can do here.
Jeff Feinglass back there, number 13, along with Gage Castle, number 3, back deep as Willie Augustivo will break the huddle of the Vikings and will look to put a big leg into this one. And he's got a good one. We saw it on exhibition last week. Did not get too many opportunities, though, against the Woodinville Falcons. This one, a line drive that's fielded by an up man at the 30. A hole in the defense, and this guy is able to get it into Inglemoor territory. Not great kick coverage.
Yeah, Robert Yamamoto, looks like he got that and made a nice play out of it. It was hard to see what he was going to be able to do with it, but he made a nice play out of it. Got positive yardage.
You know, you're always thinking about the guys back deep, but it's that layer in front of them that's always got to be alert. And so far, both kick teams have been fairly alert and have not had to pay the price thus far. But this time, Eastlake, the short field to work with as they have it in Inglemoor territory. And they complete the first pass of the drive to Gage Castle. He breaks the tackle and is up the left sidelines. Got a first down and some more.
Yeah, slipped a couple tackles out there. You want to see them make the play, but Number 7, we actually we had him down as Liko Tavaga. We had him down as number 4, but he's actually number 7. Liko Tavaga. His brother actually plays offensive line over at Eastern Washington University, and he got more of the speed.
This one complete to Cam Nelson, still battling for it, trying to get that extra yardage, and ends up falling backwards a little bit, but they'll spot him high up, and then we've got a little extracurricular activity after the play with the flag thrown high in the air by the back judge. And we'll see, there's been no love lost near the sidelines between these two teams. A couple of rivals here in KingCo 4A's Crest Division. And both teams hungry for their first divisional win. Personal foul, it will go against the Wolves, so they look to be on cruise control on this drive, but this one will shove them back.
Yeah, and on that situation, that's just where you have the second guy getting called when really both of them were kind of pushing and shoving and doing their thing down there. So just not smart playing and something you got to learn from and not let your emotions get the best of you, because that just cost your team good field position and 15 yards. Instead of 2nd and 9, we're looking at 1st and 16, 1st and 15.
And that's where they will spot it. Back at the 41-yard line. So a very costly penalty, but several downs to try and redeem themselves. Here are the Wolves. They've got trips to the short side of the field and a man way up high. They'll run the option here, and it is a good one. Drew Lewis still on his feet, looking for the sideline, the stiff arm, and he's got the first down and more. So You get 1st and 15, no problem. Drew Lewis on the pitch. We'll take care of it for you.
Yeah, he just said, I got this for you, Coach. Don't worry about it. I'll take care of it. That's a great run, 24-yard run where you saw his speed, where he just shot through the hole, but then you saw his vision where he was able to cut outside and get around the edge. He's a special back, and he's someone that they need to get the ball into his hands as much as possible tonight.
And they are certainly working on it thus far. 52.7 seconds remaining in this opening quarter, and that one doesn't go anywhere. So we'll see how they choose to utilize the clock here. See if they do what the Huskies did last night at the end of one quarter, where they basically were able to put up 6 as they caught Stanford napping a little bit. And that one really sparked the big win for the University of Washington last night.
And that was really a good job by Keith Price on that play. If anybody saw it that's watching it right now, is he just hurried them up to the line, and they caught Stanford where they weren't completely aligned yet.
It looks like they'll get this one off here. 12 seconds remaining. They do get it off. And it's a fling to the right side. Lewis again weaves in between, and he'll get in for the score. Touchdown, Eastlake.
They really like that play, and what Inglemoor is going to have to do now is bring their linebackers up, because all they've been doing is swinging it about 5 yards to Lewis or one of the other backs and out of the backfield, and they've been able to get good gainers out of that, including that one, which was a 16-yard touchdown.
Drew Lewis with his second score of the night, one on the ground, and this one a 16-yarder from Blue Thomas, with 3.6 seconds remaining in this first quarter. A lot of scoring thus far, but we do have a penalty, and it is against Inglemoor, so the score will hold. We've seen a lot of flags in this opening quarter, but so far it has not stymied the offense of the Eastlake Wolves.
And that's something where Inglemoor just has to remain there composed. You're giving these guys plenty of yardage on penalties.
Grant Beam is the holder, the backup quarterback. And the kicker is Zachary Steinberg. It's up, and it is good. So with just about 4 seconds to go in the opening quarter, the Wolves reclaim the lead on the great catch and run by Drew Lewis. It's a 14-7 affair, and we'll get the kickoff in here before the end of the quarter. And if we have more scoring quarters like this, we're in for a good one tonight, a hot one here on the plateau.
Look at that full moon up there, Alex. That thing is just huge.
Yep, it is a beautiful night for football here. As you know, the real football is played in the month of October.
Yeah, it is.
As that's when all the positions start to move around in the standings, and you really start to hone in on the work you need to do by the end of that month to get into the playoffs and go from there.
And both of these teams, or at least Eastlake, has playoff aspirations. I think they feel like they can get on a roll here, get some wins with this young team, get some confidence in them. They can make a run here. They've got the athletes. They got the talent. They just don't have a lot of experience.
Well, they've played 4 games this year, and they had a tough one going down to Lake Oswego to take on Lake Ridge. They scored a lot of points, but Lake Ridge bested them 42-27. Then they came home and ran into the team that is right now the number 4 team in the 3A classification, their neighbors, Eastside Catholic. But then they throttled Seattle Prep, and last week ran into the toughest 0-3 team you're ever going to find in the Bothell Cougars. That is the competition that Bothell has faced this year is off the charts, and so losing 33-6 to Bothell, there's no shame in that, but it does set the table here. They've got Inglemoor tonight. They've got Woodinville next week, a team that's now 3-1. They've got a tough team in Meadowdale, and then they finish the regular season prior to the crossover game against Redmond, which right now is looking as clear a win as you might find, and that's a big rivalry between these two Lake Washington schools.
Yeah, and the thing is, against Bothell last week, they gave up 239 yards to Danny Wilson, their big-time running back up there. So,
and because of the penalty, they get to kick off in Inglemoor territory as a personal foul penalty. that moved it up 15 yards. And so, that maybe it was a better time to try that onside kick, but this time they just punch it through. And, of course, the rule in high school football, as soon as it breaks the plane of the goal line, it's out to the 20-yard line.
Yeah, definitely. And just getting back to what I was saying, they allowed about 250 yards to Danny Wilson, the very good running back up there at Bothell. So coming into this game, Eastlake had probably focused a lot on their run defense. But Inglemoor probably watched the film and said, hey, I think we can make some plays out of this. And that's why we saw on their last drive, their touchdown drive, they were able to go 50 yards in about 6 plays, and most of them running plays.
Empty backfield as they put it in the air, and a big hit as time expires, and a penalty flag down, as well as leading with the helmet. Maybe the call here. That was a huge collision over there in the flat.
Yeah, and that's just something that you hate to see, just because the kid did come up and make a play, and it was a great hit, great instinctual play, but they're just going to be so wary of those headshots, and regardless of whether people like me or anybody else thinks it's legal or whatever, all that matters is what they're trying to do to protect these kids.
And that is the name of the game right now, is safety at all levels in classifications, and certainly hardly a Friday night goes by that there aren't injuries that have cause for concern in this great sport. But that one there, it's one of the side effects of the emphasis on calling that particular play. But time expires in the quarter, but because of the penalty, I believe that there will be one untimed down.
Yeah, this is the rarity in football. You don't usually see this. Usually they'll just go to the next thing, but this is a situation where you actually will get to see something like that.
So a big first down pickup on the penalty by the Wolves, and so Inglemoor an untimed down here. They'll hand it off. This is Jake Jones again. He's got about 4 yards, and that will be the final play of our first quarter, where the Eastlake Wolves lead the Inglemoor Vikings by a score of 14-7. We'll be back for second quarter action on your home for Friday Night Football, PlayOnSports.com.
One match away from immortality.
This is a total team effort.
We're gonna come at you.
One shot.
Back at Eastlake High School here in Sammamish, Washington. Alex Webster along with Scott Eklund as the Eastlake Wolves leading the Inglemoor Vikings 14-7. And it's the Vikings that are trying to answer for the second time tonight. It was so far the Drew Lewis show, a 44-yard touchdown run and a 16-yard touchdown from Blue Thomas, but really it was Drew Lewis doing all the work on that catch and run from 16 yards out.
Yeah,
in between that, Jake Jones, a 5-yard scoring run for the Vikings, and it is the Vikings that continue with the ball here in the second quarter.
Sorry about that, Alex, but yeah, the situation was just, Lewis has accounted for almost all of their offense tonight, so that's something to keep an eye on as the game continues.
And while Lewis, the back for the Wolves, getting a lot of attention, it's Jake Jones that's getting a lot of action on the Inglemoor side of things as he gets yet another carry. This one for a little bit, just a couple of yards. It'll bring up 3rd and 4.
This is something where you worry about Inglemoor coming up and possibly using a hard count to
try and draw them offsides, yeah. Well, the Eastlake Wolves their fans getting into it here on this big 3rd down play. Trips to the far side. They bring in Strathy. It's complete to him. A flag is down. Another flag. And Strathy is going to be short after picking up maybe a yard. But let's sort out the laundry. Yet again, a lot of flags in this one so far. Hopefully that will curtail itself throughout the evening.
Yeah, I don't like seeing all those kind of penalties, and I'm sure the coaches, that's going to be something they talk to their guys about at halftime. But we'll see here what it ends up being. This is probably either a man downfield or a hold.
And it is a hold against the Vikings. And it looks like they're going to mark this one off. And so Inglemoor will have 3rd and 14. Interestingly enough, that if they decline that one, that would bring up 4th down.
But I think what you see here is the coaches feel very confident that their defense will be able to stop Inglemoor, because Inglemoor really hasn't done much throwing the ball, and then they'll get even better field position.
Man in motion sets up trips to the near side, but the give is to Jones, trying to get all of it back, and he'll get some of it, but not nearly enough. 4th down coming up for the Vikings as the Wolves defense holds.
7-yard gain there for Jones, giving him at least a little bit of that back. But as you said, it's going to be 4th down, and now they're going to have to punt and give Eastlake the ball back.
And Augustavo is again in to punt, his 3rd of the night. And back deep for the Wolves will again be Jeffrey Feinglass. This one is up. Great spiraling kick. Feinglass calling for the fair catches. This one's angled towards the sideline and takes a good Inglemoor roll on the field turf surface down to the 15-yard line, and that's where the Wolves will set up shop. I do believe this is their worst field position of the night.
Definitely, and a 43-yard punt there right when Inglemoor needed it. Now you need your defense to step up, make a play, get your offense the ball back so you can tie this game up, or at least have a chance.
Well, it's a one-possession game right now, but the Wolves are thinking, hey, let's start to put a team that's 0-4, that's struggling to hungry for their first win, but struggling, and you get that woe is me factor when you get down by a couple of scores. That's what the Wolves might be thinking. Let's put it to the Vikings, get a score here, and then let's go put it on cruise control. Here's Blue Thomas looking for the deep ball. He's got a man just too far.
And the only reason that ball was incomplete was because he was forced to throw it way earlier than he wanted to. Cam Miller got in there from his linebacker spot and really belted Blue Thomas.
Gage Castle, the intended man, down that left sideline, but just a little more touch, and he's off to the races, and that 2-score lead is exactly what was in store for them.
And if he had been able to wait a half second longer, that's a touchdown. But because of the pressure, he was unable to wait, got belted, and threw it, and actually threw a pretty nice pass, just was a little too far.
Titus Mocassini, the right end in this 3-man front. And we've got some movement. I think it might have been Liko Tavaga that might have jumped across. Oh, too much clock by the Wolves. Wow, that was a quick clock.
Yeah, it was. It's something that you definitely don't want to see. But they don't, well, they do have I didn't see it down there. They do have a time clock. But still, that's on the quarterback, but you do have a quarterback who's only a sophomore right now, so they're gonna have some growing pains with that.
2nd and 15 now, and Blue Thomas gets hit as he throws. That one falling incomplete, out of bounds. Good pressure once again from the Viking defense.
And that looked like Cam Miller coming in again, shooting it again, causing problems because they had a wide receiver that was open, and Thomas just didn't have time to make the play.
Miller letting his presence be known in that offensive backfield for the Wolves. It's going to be 3rd and 15, and a team that has cruised every time they've had the ball is trying to convert on a 3rd and long. Blue, too tall for Tyler Ackerman, the tight end, 6'3" senior. Would have needed to be about 6'8" with some good hops on that one.
Yeah, not a good throw by Thomas right there. And this is a situation where now you're Inglemoor. You're excited. Hey, let's get some good field position. Let's make the smart play. Isaiah Lewis drops back. He's only a sophomore, though. And that's something you'll worry a little bit about.
First punt of the night, and this one is fielded by Isaiah Lewis on the near sideline. He gets a little bit of yardage as that was a pretty good punt by Eastlake to get him pinned to the sideline, but he's able to turn it upfield for a few yards, get into Wolves territory, and for Eastlake, or rather for Inglemoor, good field position here to try and get this one knotted up.
Yeah, here this is this is actually now the best field position they've had. They started their last drive, their touchdown drive, on the 49-yard line, so now they're on the 47. Let's see what they can do here. You got to get some positive yardage, get this thing rolling for them.
3 receivers to the top of the screen. Hans Fortune has not put it in the air much. He does so here. It's complete. And a good first down carry after catch by Max Vanderhoffen. Vanderhoffen, a 5'9 sophomore, 200-pound running back just over there in the flat. Was able to rumble ahead, breaking some tackles.
Yeah, it is Oktoberfest, and Vanderhoffen realizes that and wants to make a play, and definitely goes out and does that. Actually made a couple men miss out there, too.
9:39 to go in the first half of play. 14-7, Eastlake leading, but the Vikings threatening here with another first down. The handoff, Jones in the middle, stacked up. They try to move the pile. He'll get about a yard. Getting some contact afterwards, but no penalty flag, as this has been a clean drive thus far.
Tough inside running there, only got a yard, but looked like he actually was going to get stopped for minus yardage on that. So good job of getting positive yardage out of it. Something here that you want to keep an eye on is how the interior of Inglemoor handles the interior, the smallish but quick interior of Eastlake.
4 receivers in the set. Quick pitch, and it's incomplete. Vikings could not hang on. That was Jake Lindelof. 5'9", senior for Inglemoor.
Yeah, it didn't look to be open over there. I was a little surprised they threw it as quickly as they did. But the thing about Eastlake is they reacted really quickly to that. They recognized it probably from their film study. They recognized it. They broke on it real quick, and that's why it was incomplete.
So 3rd and long for the Vikings with 8:54 now remaining in the half. And Hans Fortune, who's done a pretty good job tonight of handing off to Jake Jones and company, will be called upon to look and convert this one here. Fortune, the tall quarterback, rolls out. He's got a wolf in his face, and he'll go down. 3 red jerseys in the area. Joshua Horton, a linebacker in there, as part of that brigade. Big loss on the play.
Troy Markson, number 10, was also in on that play as well. They really didn't bite on the play fake because they knew that they were going to try and throw the ball, and that was something where Fortune just had no chance whatsoever to make this play. Good stop by the Wolves.
Augustavo to punt it away here to Jeffrey Feinglass again. Feinglass calling for it, but I believe it's over his head, and it will bound into the end zone for the touchback. And the Wolves will have it at their own 20 with 8:10 to go, nursing a 14-7 advantage and trying to put the pedal to the metal and see if they can put the Vikings down by a couple scores or two here in this second quarter. But a great defensive stand by the Vikings here just a few minutes ago, and they're going to call upon their defense to do it again.
Yeah, and if I'm Eastlake right now, I'm handing it off to Ryan or to Drew Lewis, just because he's their most dynamic playmaker. He can make things happen with both his speed and his size and his vision. I don't think that Inglemoor has anybody that can answer him.
Here's the handoff, or rather a broken play as a new quarterback in. That's Grant Beam, the 5'11 senior, 185-pound quarterback that's in there to spell Richard Blue Thomas. So not sure where Thomas went, if there was any kind of an issue there, or whether they're getting some time for Grant Beam here. They have split time before. In fact, they combined against Seattle Prep to go 17 of 26 for 293 yards and 4 touchdowns. So Blue Thomas not the only guy that can pull the trigger back there.
Yeah, Thomas is definitely the better overall athlete and quarterback, but Beam can get it done too.
He'll go to the air here, looking for Castle, and Castle's got it for a first down. Wedged that one into a tight window as Nick Russell was there in coverage, the senior linebacker for the Vikings. And now they look to hurry it up a little bit. No huddle in the offense as they get 3 receivers to the top and 1 to the bottom here. And the Wolves handing it off. This is Lewis. And just a little bit on the ground there for Drew Lewis, the junior running back.
Yeah, only his 6th carry of the night, 2 yards. Actually, it's his lowest carry of the night. But you can see Lewis when he gets out on the edge. He's always looking to break it for a long gainer, and that's something where you want him to just run behind his pads, lower his shoulder, and get the most yardage he can.
So Beam leading this drive. I see Blue Thomas down on the sideline with his helmet propped up on his head, not near the bench or anything, so engaged in the action. Here's Beam trying to set up the screen, and a huge hit as they sniffed that one out big time.
Now it was Tavanga right there coming up, showing his good instincts, realizing that Lewis was the one who they were really going to target on that, and made the play, and Lewis took a big shot.
Liko Tavanga, 5'10", 190-pound linebacker, laying the wood on Drew Lewis. Almost, if you're Inglemoor, you would have hoped that he held on to the ball. He could have taken the loss.
Yeah.
But they'll take the incompletion. It'll bring up 3rd and 8. Grant Beam seeing his first series of work, and he wants a timeout here. Didn't see what he liked. And with 6:29 to go in the half, a big 3rd and 8 coming up here as the Wolves would like to keep this drive moving. They decide to talk things over. Play on Sports is on Facebook and Twitter, giving you news and information and links to great highlights. Follow us at Play on Sports on both Facebook and Twitter. You can also access thousands of live and on-demand games on YouTube at youtube.com/PlayOnNetwork. Keep up with all the high school action every week from your destination for high school sports, PlayOnSports.com.
Now right here, if you're Inglemoor, the question for you is, okay, what do we do? Do we blitz him because he's really new to the game and hasn't really gotten his feet under him? He's only thrown 1 pass. Do we blitz him, or do we sit back in coverage and let 4 guys go at it? I like the aggressive style. I just call, hey, if your guy can beat us one-on-one, there's nothing we can do about it. I'd come up, get in his face, see what we could do, bring the pressure from different angles.
Beam already with a good completion on this drive. He gets flushed here. 3 white jerseys around him, and he wisely holds on to it and goes down here. And great defensive surge once again for the Vikings as they'll stymie the offensive attack of the Wolves for the 2nd consecutive time.
And right there you saw Jacob Cartwright come in after he got initial pressure up the middle from Mocassini and one of the other interior linemen was flushed out to his right, and Cartwright came up and made the play, made the sure tackle on him.
Zachary Steinberg with his 2nd punt of the night. Isaiah Lewis waving for the fair catch, now waving his players to get away from it. It may have touched one of the Vikings. It is covered up by the Wolves, but they will say no, that Karam did not go off of his foot. That was mighty close.
Yeah, and the way the player reacted, I actually thought it did hit off of him, but apparently it didn't. And Inglemoor definitely has to consider themselves lucky on that one.
Dodging a bullet here deep in their own end. And the Vikings will set up shop. They had great field position the last time. This time, not so much. And Hans Fortune, who's been running the offense for the Vikings, back in there. Remember, they will make a switch at quarterback occasionally as well as Brandon Edwards, a 6'1 senior, also waiting in the wings. Out of the pistol. They'll hand it off. This is to the fullback, and it is a good gainer as Max Vanderhoffen gets the 4 to 5 yard pickup. And it has been the Inglemoor running game when they've been successful that has helped to drive them, putting Fortune in more fortunate situations in 2nd and 3rd and short.
And here you're going to watch, I think Inglemoor's probably going to try and grind this thing down, wind this clock as much as they can.
And we'll have another penalty flag here. Interesting formation for Inglemoor as they had two of their receivers really tight to the line. Offside on the Wolves, so they were able to get them jumping. And that'll get them close to the first down. And you wonder, 2nd and 1, you always think, hey, we're going to keep the ball moving, but what about an opportunity to try and go deep here?
Yeah, I'm a big believer in not necessarily taking shots down the field, especially Fortune doesn't have the strongest arm in the world. So what I do is I try and get my running backs into motion, get them going, keep this clock going so that you don't give Eastlake the ball back.
Vanderhoffen with the carry again, carrying Wolves with him for the first down and more.
Nice 6-yard gain right there for Vanderhoffen, and really tough run. It took almost the entire Wolf defense to get him down.
So the Vikings working the clock, working the chains, looking for the equalizer here, down by a score. They'll run it again. Jake Jones. Nice pickup on first down.
Would like to have maybe seen him take that outside a little bit further. It looked like he had a little more room, and he had 2 blockers out there with him, but decided to cut it up and get the sure yardage. Now it comes back up at 2nd and short, and they got a chance to keep these chains moving and keep this clock going.
Well, they were able to get 6 yards from Vanderhoffen a moment ago as the first back through on the left side. He'll go in motion here. They look for the pass, and it is complete, but a flag down in the backfield. I believe the man in motion ended up going towards the line, and that created the false start. Illegal motion, rather, on the call, and so it negates the completion.
That was a really interesting play, the way they used the motion. And on that, what you want to do is you want to get the safety thinking, get the safety moved out of the middle so that all of a sudden you bring someone in right behind him. And they did just that, and they got a good play out of it. But unfortunately, the back or the wide receiver went in motion the wrong way. Now,
if we were playing in the Canadian Football League, that would have been okay.
Yeah, but the field would also be wider, and the end zones would be back to the scoreboards out there.
Touché.
They have the biggest end zones. It's hard to believe.
There's a lot of territory up in Canada.
Is.
A lot of room to roam. They're resetting the shot clock, or rather the play clock here. I'm getting excited about basketball season coming up here. Not too far away as the month of October just creeping up on us here in a day or two.
3 major sports being played. Baseball playoffs, football's in full go, and basketball's just getting started.
And minor league hockey also.
Yep.
Western Hockey League already in the action. Complete to Strathey here on a nice pickup. It'll bring up 3rd and about 2 on the pass from Fortune, getting a good chunk of that penalty back.
Yeah, and that was a nice completion right there. Just hit his back foot on the 3-step drop, hit Strathey, and then Strathey turned it up and got a couple extra yards out of it.
And Strathey, a deceivingly large target at 6'5", 185 pounds, and they're giving him cushion. He's set up on the bottom of the formation here on your screen. Jones, the back there. They fake it to him, give it to Fortune, and Fortune may have surged forward close to the first down there, but I think he's going to be a little bit short.
Now it'll bring up 4th down. He tried to use all of that 6'6" frame of his, and he almost got it, but Eastlake was able to get him down about a yard short.
And it is about a good yard. We'll see what they choose to do here with 2:27 to go and counting down. So it makes you think, do they want to try to put Eastlake back deep, pin them back deep, or try and go for it here?
I think they're probably going to call timeout. If they decide to go for it, I like Vanderhoven right up the middle, just because he's so tough to bring down, or at least he's shown it tonight. But I think they're going to end up punting this and hope that they can get out of this with only down 14-7 at halftime.
Well, Inglemoor taking their first time out, both teams with 2 remaining, with just 2:10 remaining in this quarter. We had all the damage done on the scoreboard in the opening frame as Drew Lewis, a 44-yard touchdown run, But not to be outdone, Jake Jones for the Inglemoor Vikings, countering with a 5-yard touchdown score. But the difference in this one so far is Blue Thomas's 16-yard touchdown pass and run to Drew Lewis. That was all last quarter, but It's been a good moving second period.
It has. It's been a really good display of defense. The defenses have maybe given up a few yards here and there, but more often than not, they've stuck tight. They haven't really given up anything, and that's why we've had a scoreless second quarter.
So 4th and a yard, maybe a tick longer than a yard. You can see it right there on your screen. Not bad positioning right there. You can see right down across to see how much they have to go. And they will go for it here. They're going to say, hey, we're 0-4. We are going to be the aggressors in this one. Out of the pistol. 3 backs in the backfield with Fortune. And they'll hand it to Jones. He's got it. And more.
Nice hard running right there. Had to lower his shoulder and really get the yardage, and was able to get an extra yard out of that. 2-yard gain, actually almost a 3-yard gain, and keep this clock moving, keep these chains moving, and give themselves a chance to tie this thing up, or at least, at the very least, get some points out of this before halftime.
And he was not going to be turned away. That was a big head of steam he had cranked up by the time he got that ball.
Yeah, I don't know if anybody else sees this when they watch a football game, but when you see a running back that looks like he has a set of purpose when he runs, when he hits a hole, it's always a positive play. And I always, if I'm rooting for a team and I watch them hit the hole like that, I think, okay, they see something where this is going to be a big play.
It's one of those things where the game kind of slows down and you've got that vision.
Yep.
And you can just, know where you're going. You're in the zone.
And on that, he probably read the defense knowing where the hole was probably going to be.
Yep. 1st and 10, a minute 50 to go now as the Vikings try to equalize. Fortune going to the air. He's got a man. It's Strathey at the 10. Touchdown, Inglemoor.
Nicely called on that. They used the play action to freeze the linebackers and the safeties and threw it to Strathey right over the top.
Hans Fortune off the play action, getting the equalizer, but Eastlake will have about 98 seconds remaining in this half to reclaim the lead, but still, we're talking about the extra point as if it's automatic, and it is anything but at this classification, but Willie Augustavo has been a good one. This one is up, and it is good. So we are tied at 14 with a minute 38 left to go. A 45-yard pass play from Hans Fortune to Eric Strathey, the seniors for the Vikings connecting up. And we've got a brand new ball game once again.
Definitely. Minute 38 left. And Eastlake should get the ball, gets the ball first in the second half. I think what you're going to see is from Eastlake is where's our ball positioned, and maybe they'll run a couple plays and see how many yards they get out of it, and then see if they can do something with it. If they can't, then just run out the clock.
Well, we've talked about Eastlake and having to replace 22 starters from last year. Their entire offense, their entire defensive starting crew, and replacing that with some youth here, some sophomores, some juniors. And that may have been one of those plays where you had a defensive back biting a little bit too much on the play fake and the receiver just able to take advantage.
Yeah, that was Cameron Nelson, who didn't play a lot last year. He's a cornerback and just bit on the play action and was beat over the top. It just goes to show if you're a wide receiver, especially in high school, if you're a wide receiver, you don't have to have the greatest speed, because Strathey isn't a speed merchant by any stretch of the imagination. But what it is it's good route running and it's good ball handling by the quarterback. And on that play call, it was a well-run route, and that's why he was wide open. He was a good 5 to 7 yards behind the defense.
Gunnar Allmeyer to kick this one off. So not Augustavo this time, and this one fritters away from Castle, but he scoops it up and has got some room to roam. Stymied at the 35, though, on a great open field tackle by Isaiah Lewis.
Yeah, and that's definitely something you didn't want to see if you're an Inglemoor fan, because now Eastlake actually has good field position, a minute and a half left here in the half, and
2 timeouts.
Yeah, 2 timeouts. So it's a chance for them to actually get something done. Let's see if they get the ball in the hands of their playmaker Drew Lewis, because I think he's the one who needs to touch the ball as much as possible.
Well, who's in at quarterback? This is Blue Thomas back in. He gets it complete. And the player, like you were saying, the receiver over there did not get out of bounds. Instead, tried to turn it in, and that's going to be the trade-off of time versus the extra yard gain, and head coach will have that conversation with him later.
I felt like I was sitting watching the game on TV right there. Get out of bounds, get out of bounds.
And they were trying to get it to Drew Lewis that time. A little too quick and through his hands. And so now quickly, just like that, it's third down. And for Inglemoor, another stop here, and they might have a shot.
Yeah, they have a decent shot.
With 2 timeouts left, too.
Yeah, now they're not much of a passing offense. I mean, we did see just a 45-yard touchdown pass. But that was more set up by their running. But
here's Blue Thomas looking for the first down. He's got it as he completes it to Cam Nelson over there, the big 6'2", 175-pound senior.
And that was a really nice throw by Blue Thomas. Just hit his back foot. Nelson actually ran a really good route. Turned it off exactly where he's supposed to. That's what they refer to. When they refer to a timing route, that's what they refer to, because that ball was probably thrown before he even turned around.
And even 1 minute to go, and the Wolves in Viking territory looking to unknot this 14-all tie. 2 receivers to both sides as Thomas pulls the trigger, looking for the receiver on the sideline again. Just a 5-6 yard gain on the out route, but less than 5 seconds gone off the clock.
Yeah, now Eastlake does have the kind of athletes that you can get down the field in a hurry. Let's see what they do. If you see Inglemoor, they're dropping into quarters coverage, which is 4 defensive backs covering the deep zones.
Same play just about, looking for Gage Castle, who picks up about 3 yards, will get out of bounds. 1.5 yards to 2 yards to go on this third down play, coming up with 52.2 seconds left.
And I'm calling it quarters coverage. I mean, you could also call it what everybody likes to call it, prevent defense. And but what do they say about prevent defense?
Prevents you from winning.
Yeah, and that's a situation where Eastlake is going to be more than content to just throw underneath on this. They've only spent 37 seconds trying to get down this far.
Thomas again to Castle, who gets the first down and gets out of bounds.
Yeah, and he cut inside on that. I thought he was going to cost them another timeout or at least some time as they got things set up, but he didn't do it. He was able to get out of bounds.
That play seems to be open on every opportunity here for the Wolves on this drive. And we've got a timeout on the field. We'll see if it's the Wolves or the Vikings. The Vikings want to talk things over defensively as they are watching the Wolves just kind of work that far sideline for 5, 6, 7, 8 yards a pop. And there's still 47.7 seconds left to go in the half. That's plenty of time when you're biting off chunks of yardage just like that.
And, Alex, this is the third game you and I have actually done together, and so far this is the best game we've seen from at least a score standpoint.
It's a battle, and you would have thought coming in, hey, we've got an 0-4 team, we've got a 1-3 team, but some of those records can be deceiving based on where these two teams have been coming from in terms of where they were last year, in terms of the injury structure. But they're coached well. They've got good, solid programs. And you know that eventually that's going to overcome some of the things that have happened to them over the scope of this year in the offseason.
Both of these programs have great youth programs. And so a lot of these kids have come up through their systems, and they feed in very nicely. Inglemoor and Eastlake have both had players go D1 from their schools, so definitely have a lot of talent and size.
1st and 10, completion, and a first down for the Wolves inside the red zone. That one to Tyler Ackerman, the tight end, 6'3", 210-pound senior. And the hurry-up offense in effect as the clock starts after they move the chains. Now down to 39 seconds. Thomas complete to the near sideline as he finds Cam Nelson ahead for a few more yards. 36 seconds, and I'd have to say incredible clock management here by the Wolves on this drive. They still have the 2 timeouts they started this drive with. And they're knocking on the door. The ball at the 16-yard line. Trips to the left for the Wolves. The single Receiver on the near side is Cam Nelson. Thomas going to pull it down and run. Runs into his own man, finds a lane, and is dragged down as he nears the 6-yard line. They'll call it the 7, but the clock will continue to run after they move the chains. It's good for the first down. And it'll be 1st and goal at the 7.
Great run there by Blue Thomas. Actually ran into his own man. Might have been able to run it in for a touchdown, but ran into his own man as he was getting started.
Here's the play into the middle, and it's in there for the touchdown. Blue Thomas.
And right there, that's great instincts. He actually had a man come wide open that he could have thrown to, but decided to tuck it and run it for a touchdown himself.
Blue Thomas now with a touchdown running and passing with 15 seconds left to go. They took a minute 15 to get this drive done.
Yeah, and like you said, it was great clock management by Thomas and the rest of the Wolves, and really Inglemoor allowed that because of the defense they played.
That one is up, and it is good. And so Eastlake, after the Inglemoor Vikings for the second time in this half come back to tie it, re-exert their will and go up by a score with just 15 seconds left to go. Inglemoor hoping for a good return, but they should start with the ball in the second half.
Yeah, and now Eastlake has the chance to go into halftime at leading 21-14 unless we see some miracle by Inglemoor able to return this. But Eastlake will get the ball in the second half, and we'll see what they're able to do past that.
We went most of this second quarter without anything on the scoreboard. The defense is doing their job, but in the last minute and 20 seconds, we've seen 2 scores.
Yeah, and these guys, these are teams who didn't put up a lot of points throughout the quarter, but then all of a sudden, like you said, within the last minute and 45 seconds, they put up 14 points. And one thing that you just want to do here is you just want to get into the halftime. No injuries. You want to make sure you don't have any more turnovers and things like that. And if you're Eastlake, you want to get this thing deep so they'll start at the 20-yard line.
Zachary Steinberg has had a busy leg in this one. The 6'1 senior, 190-pound kicker and punter, has had 3 extra points in this one and a boatload full of kickoffs. He gets this one into the end zone for the touchback, and so Inglemoor will have it at their own 20-yard line, and we'll see if they opt to take a knee or be a little more aggressive.
My guess is they'll probably run the ball and see if they can pop something big. You just never know, but most likely going to run this and run out the clock and go into halftime only down 7.
Hans Fortune in the quarter with a 45-yard touchdown pass to Eric Strathy just a little while ago, but they appear to be in that victory formation, if you will, but it's not really a victory formation at this stage of the game. They'll take the knee. And both sides will make their way off the field and into the locker room as the clock ticks down. And there it goes as they wind the clock. And for the Inglemoor Vikings, you have to feel pretty good that you were able to come back twice in this game, an 0-4 team that has not quit yet. And for the Eastlake Wolves, happy to be aggressively scoring and to also have the lead here at the half. That's the end of the first half of play, with the Eastlake Wolves leading the Inglemoor Vikings by a score of 21-14. We'll be back in a few moments with the PlayOnSports.com halftime show. Don't go anywhere. It's Friday Night Football on PlayOnSports.com, your destination for high school sports.
We can get a player up here.
Oh, that's good stuff.
All right, perfect. Prepare a Wiley Ballard graphic.
Do you want me to start the stream?
Start the stream. Camera 3. Beautiful. We're coming in on 1.
For more information on how your school can join the Play on School broadcast program, go to playonsports.com/SBP.
it's a little easier for me.
Welcome to the PlayOnSports.com halftime show, coming to you from Eastlake High School in Sammamish, Washington. I'm Alex Webster alongside Scott Eklund. Our halftime score is the Eastlake Wolves leading the Inglemoor Vikings by the score of 21-14. And Scott, I know you're doing some quick math there, trying to get some statistics in the first half, but a good bundle of scoring as it was the Eastlake Wolves coming out and getting a solid drive put together, but they got it down to the 3, and they could not get it into the end zone on 4 tries, and that gave Inglemoor some hope. But Inglemoor, or rather Eastlake, who was moving the ball very well up and down the field, wouldn't be turned back because in the second half of that first quarter, they were able to get the job done as Drew Lewis, one to watch in this game, one of our big ones to watch, breaks one around right end for 44 yards, breaking some tackles, gets in for the score. But Inglemoor not going to run and hide in this one. Just a few minutes later, Jake Jones answers with a 5-yard score. But then near the end of the first quarter, Blue Thomas finds Drew Lewis on a 16-yard touchdown pass. And then for most of the second quarter, we go scoreless. But then the play-action pass for the Inglemoor Vikings, Hans Fortune finding Eric Strathey. He beat his man, 45-yard touchdown. 45 yards later, the touchdown is complete, and Inglemoor is right back in it. But clock control, moving the chains, the Eastlake Wolves, with Blue Thomas distributing the ball well, calls his own number from 7 yards out with 15 seconds left to put Eastlake in front 21-14, our halftime score. And statistically, both teams starting to rack up some good numbers.
Yeah, and you just mentioned Blue Thomas. He's 12 of 16 for 128 yards with a touchdown, 16 yards, as you mentioned, to Andrew Lewis. Plus, he also rushed for that last touchdown for 7 yards. And Drew Lewis has 76 yards rushing and a touchdown, as well as 36 yards receiving and a touchdown as well. Those are the big contributors on the Eastlake side of the ball. On Inglemoor's team, they started off kind of slow, but Jake Jones actually has 66 yards and including a 5-yard touchdown. And Fortune has gone, I think it's 4 of 9 for 45 yards. 4 of 9 for 70 yards with a touchdown. So not a big offensive output on the Inglemoor side, but they've been able to capitalize on some short fields because of the onside kick that Eastlake had on the first kick, where they took the ball over at the Eastlake 49, and then they got the penalty on a kick as well. So they definitely have had shorter fields to work with, and that's something that Eastlake, if you're Eastlake, you can't give them those short fields because that's the only time they've been able to score.
And for both these teams, battle-tested against some of the state's best competition. Inglemoor may be 0-4, but 2 of those losses are to top 10 teams in other classifications. The Meadowdale Mavericks, number 6 in 3A competition. That was one of the losses for Inglemoor. And their best effort thus far was a game against Tumwater, who's the 2A number 6 school, a couple of weeks ago. They were very close in that one, but a punt return that went the distance, or just pretty much the entire length of the field, with about 5 minutes left to go, ruined that opportunity for their victory. But they've also played a regional foe in Woodinville. Meanwhile, the Eastlake Wolves, they've played a team out of Oregon. They've played Eastside Catholic just up the hill, who's the number 4 team in 3A classification. Their one victory, a big win over a talented Seattle Prep team, but last week ran into a very talented 4A team in Bothell over at their home field at Pop Keeney. And so that's where they've gotten to 1-3, replacing 22 starters from last year. So they've seen good competition, and now they're facing each other, and they're competing at a good, solid level. And it's a seesaw battle right now.
Yeah, and as we mentioned at the beginning of the broadcast, we talked about the adversity both these teams have faced. Well, as you can see on the scoreboard, the way they've played tonight, some of the stops they've made defensively, neither one of these teams have given up on this season. Both of them are playing as hard as they can, and I think that's something that you always want to see when you're watching a game like this.
And for the victor, an opportunity to get in the game in the 4A Crest division of KingCo, as right now both of them sitting 0-1. Bothell is 1-0, Woodinville is 1-0, and Redmond is playing their first Crest Division game against Bothell, and most prognosticators would say that would probably be a loss for Bothell or loss for Redmond, a win for Bothell. And Woodinville is playing out of league right now as they take on Monroe, so an opportunity for the victor in this one to be right back into the thick of the chase with a good amount of action left to go.
Yeah, and it's what you want to do when you're a coach. You're trying to get your guys to understand, look, we take this one game at a time. We get this win, then we focus on the next week, we get the next win. It's really easy for the players to look ahead. Who do we have next? What do we have next? What do we have coming up? But if you get this first win in league, you have a chance to get into those playoffs. And then when you get to the playoffs, it's anybody's guess what's going to happen.
Yep, and right now, we're at halftime. And that's going to do it for the PlayOnSports.com halftime show, where the Eastlake Wolves lead the Inglemoor Vikings 21-14. Friday Night Football will return in just a few minutes with the start of the second half right here on your destination for high school sports, PlayOnSports.com.
One match away from immortality.
This is a total team effort.
We're gonna come at you.
One shot at this.
watching PlayOnSports.com's presentation of Friday Night Football live from Sammamish, Washington. I'm Alex Webster with Scott Eklund. The Eastlake Wolves lead the Inglemoor Vikings by a score of 21-14 as we get ready to start the second half of action. Some keys to this game, Scott, for the second half. And a tight battle where we've seen Eastlake put up the first points and Inglemoor answer every time. Right now, we're waiting for that other answer from Inglemoor.
Well, if you're Inglemoor, you've got to get out defensive stop to start this second half and get the ball back for your offense so that you can maybe tie this game up. But at the very least, you want to keep Eastlake from really running away with this. If you're Eastlake, you want to come out, you want to drive the ball. I'm a big believer in you got to give it to the best player on your team, which is obviously Drew Lewis. Very explosive player. You see it when he gets his hands on the ball. Now, the thing is, Inglemoor has definitely been spying him, has been trying to keep him from getting out in the open. And so now what you do is Richard Thomas, Blue Thomas, I said Richard, that's his real first name.
His given name,
yeah,
yes.
Given name. But Blue Thomas is what he goes by. But you if you're him, you've got to take what the defense gives you, just like you did at the end of that half, and make some plays, opening up things for Drew Lewis.
Well, and we talked in the early part of this broadcast about ones to watch, and of course the two names that we were just talking about, Drew Lewis, Blue Thomas, have been the mainstay of the Eastlake offensive attack. They've, in fact, between the two of them, accounted for all three touchdowns, both each running in a score and then connecting on a 16-yard touchdown pass between the two of them.
Yeah, and what you see from Lewis is he's multidimensional. He can catch passes, and I think if I'm just evaluating him right now, I'm looking at him where his future lies when he gets to the college level. I think he's more of a wide receiver. He's got a long body, long arms, and can really catch the ball. He has showed soft hands when he has had the chance to catch the ball, so I really like him a lot. Now, but as far as him as a runner, he's definitely a guy who can get it all done in running the ball as well.
As far as Inglemoor, their ones to watch, we had Titus Mocassini and then Jake Jones. Jake Jones has been everything as advertised, already running in a touchdown for the Inglemoor Vikings and carrying a lot of that offensive load, and in fact was probably, without touching the ball, part of the reason why they got the other touchdown. Because of the play action, Hans Fortune, the quarterback, was able to find Eric Strathy, who had gotten past his defender for that score that at that time equalized the game to 14. And so Jake Jones, one of the ones to watch for Inglemoor, playing the part in the first half.
Yeah, and that was a broken coverage that they took advantage of because they got him to bite on the play action passes and things like that. But for Inglemoor, you really just need to continue to establish things, and really, and I hate to use the sports cliche, but Fortune has to play with them himself. And what that means is he can't go outside and try and do all these things himself. He needs to throw the ball where they give him, and they run a lot of inside routes on things. They run a lot of crosses, a lot of slants, and things like that. They don't run a lot of fades. So when he threw that fade, he threw it perfectly, and that's why they got the touchdown. They need to do more of that, but what they really need to do is, with Inglemoor, what they do is they set up the pass by using the run, and that's what they're going to need to do more of in this second half.
And we also talked about Titus Mocassini, the big lineman for Inglemoor, and that line is going to have to do a good job of protecting Fortune and opening those holds for Jones.
Yeah, and Titus Mocassini is a guy who would be getting looked at by plenty of different schools, especially Pac-12 schools, because that they have shown interest in him, but because of his grades, people haven't been after him. But he has legit Pac-12 talent, and that's why he's a guy who as a junior won Lineman of the Year honors in one of the best conferences in the entire state.
And the Inglemoor Vikings, it appears, will start out on defense as they will kick off to start this second half of play. For the Wolves, this is the great opportunity to try and do the one thing they haven't been able to do so far tonight, and that is get up by multiple scores.
Yeah, and as you said, this is their chance. And it's something where you want to get a good return out of this, which they have been able to do. Get good field position and then see what they can get moving the ball early in this. And if you're Inglemoor, you want to come out and stop them and really put the pressure on them and get them thinking about things here at home in front of this great home crowd.
Sophomore Gunnar Allmeyer will do the kickoff duties here for the Vikings. And back deep for Eastlake are Gage Castle and Jeff Feinglass. And this one is going to be kept short once again. And it is the Wolves with one of the up men able to get it past the 40 and into pretty good field position to start this second half of play.
Great field position, and that was a very good return by Lucas Hankel, and he's a player who catches it because Inglemoor doesn't have the kicker to put it in the end zone, obviously. So that's why they're kicking it short, trying to keep it out of the hands of the playmakers for Eastlake.
And it will be Richard Blue Thomas that will be at quarterback here. He had a brief rest in that second quarter, but he came back out to lead that touchdown drive right at the end of the first half of play, and he hands off on the first opportunity here for about 2 yards.
Yeah, inside run by Lewis, something we haven't seen him do a lot of tonight. He's gotten a lot of his yardage on the perimeter. Good knifing play in there by the middle linebacker for Inglemoor.
And Blue Thomas coming all the way over to the sideline to talk with the coaching staff about the play. He's done that throughout a good part of the night. You really notice it when they're on the far hash mark. Trips to the near side. Thomas running out of the shotgun, handing off to Lewis. Big hole. He's got a blocker. And he gets ahead for the first down deep into Inglemoor territory inside the 30-yard line.
Nice 26-yard gain there for Lewis as he broke over to the left side. I think that Thomas's ball fake, or actually handing off the ball, but he continued his fake, and that really held the linebacker long enough for Lewis to be able to have an open field to run.
The 6'1 junior with a good burst of speed, catching the Inglemoor defense, napping a little bit. Glad you could join us here on a fantastic evening for Friday Night Football here on the Sammamish Plateau. The handoff to Lewis again. Beats one defender. Gets a block near the end zone. Close to it, down at the 1.
And that puts him at 122 yards rushing right now here early in the third quarter, or earlier in the third quarter. So,
we've played less than a minute 30 so far in this one, and it's been all Drew Lewis.
Yeah, and as I said before, I thought that he was the one that they would end up going to. He's their best player, most dynamic player, and I expect him to get this carry as well.
Out of the eye, they give it to him, and he's into the end zone for the score. A 1-yard touchdown plunge for Drew Lewis with just a little over a minute and a half gone here in the third quarter.
Yeah, and Eastlake doesn't run out of the eye very often either. That's something you don't see from them very often. They're usually in the spread. He's usually taking handoffs out of the shotgun. And but there just had a lead play to his fullback, and he was able to follow him in for an easy touchdown.
And the way that they're set up, and they've been doing this play all night, they do snap it here. It's fumbled by Beam, the backup quarterback. As they were going to try to go for 2, they saw some sort of indicator to say go for it. And that's what happens when you've got that backup quarterback in there, is you can run all kinds of different things, but this time he just couldn't hang on to it.
Yeah, and hopefully for Eastlake's sake that doesn't come back to haunt them, because those points always tend to come back and haunt you when you miss something that's an easy points.
So 27-14 with 10:21 to go. Eastlake just getting that ball. They got excellent field position, and then they just rode the back of Drew Lewis.
Yeah, and he's a person that you can ride. He's got broad shoulders. He can get you rushing yards. He can get you passing yards. He's versatile. He can do it all for this team, and I think you're going to see him put up some big numbers tonight. And he's definitely a candidate for our player of the night. We're going to be talking about that a little bit later tonight. But definitely a candidate with the kind of yards he's put up and the productivity we've seen from him. And,
of course, right now, if you're Inglemoor, it's really about how do you respond. This is one of those situations where you've kind of been here before already several times this season, and does that woe is me Eeyore mentality start to factor in? It hasn't so far tonight. They've bounced back every time, just about. And right now, nearly getting doubled up on the scoreboard. They've got a great opportunity most of the second half to go, but they do need to put some rhythm together or put together a score fairly quick in this one.
And if the first 4 kickoffs are any indication, we're probably going to see this one go into the end zone too. So Inglemoor will be starting from the 20-yard line. They're obviously going to have to go 80 yards. And if that's the case, I don't know if this offense has that yet, but we'll see.
Senior kicker Zachary Steinberg leaving this one a little bit short. Fielded at the 5 by the Vikings. seeing if they can get all of it back or at least get into good field position, and they get a good carry out past the 30 to the 32, and that's where the Vikings will set up shop for the first time here in the second half.
And Fortune needs to come out and really look at the defense, see what they're trying to do, make adjustments at the line, but they're really, I have a feeling they're probably going to just start it off on the ground like we're used to seeing with this Inglemoor offense. They're conservative, but they get most of their passing yards off of run fakes, and that's something that you need to keep an eye on.
They'll go under center this time as Hans Fortune is in there giving to Jones, and he just knocks heads for about 4 yards.
5'9", 200 pounds. Really tough to bring down, low center of gravity, keeps those legs grinding, and he's strong. And that's something that Eastlake has been able to counteract for the most part, but he's been able to break free for a couple runs too.
And for Inglemoor, it's not all about the quick strike. It's really about stabilizing things, working some clock. That second quarter zoomed past, and then it stalled out there for a while when Eastlake was really able to manage the clock and get that final score. Fortune going to drop back off the play fakes, got a man. It's complete again, and down inside the 25 to about the 23-yard line. The Vikings will set up shop in Eastlake territory.
35-yard gain down there to Strathy. Got open behind, actually.
Jackson Gardner actually grabbing that one. A big 6'4", 197-pounder. Both those guys with good size. So I can understand the confusion on that one as we had to try and check out who that was because Strathy and Jackson Gardner looking pretty similar. This time, Gardner unable to get it into the end zone as he had to slow down a little bit. But the Vikings trying to counteract that quick score by the Eastlake Wolves to start this third quarter, but it looks like they're going to have to go backwards a little bit to go forward.
Looks like movement on the right tackle, Ryan Clary over there.
There was movement by both lines, and it is actually offsides called on the Wolves. So the momentum for the Vikings aided by this 5-yard pickup on the penalty.
And as we've seen, this is the third time that Eastlake has scored when Inglemoor has been able to come right back and make a score themselves. And that's something you like to see. If you're the coaching staff over at Inglemoor, you have to love the fact that your team is responding this way. And like you said, not the woe is me.
Fortune with the handoff. Jones looking for the corner, finds it. Gets ahead. It looks like for the first down after the 1st and 5 set up by that 5-yard offsides penalty of the Wolves. It is a first down. And so Inglemoor, the one time they haven't had a chance to come back was that late score near the end of the second quarter. Otherwise, who knows? They might have rebounded back. They just ran out of time.
Yeah, and let's see here.
Fortune with the handoff again, running room, and into the end zone goes the Vikings for the answer to the question posed by the Wolves, as it was number 34, Max Vanderhoffen, the sophomore, getting the score from about 10 yards out, make it 12 yards out. With 8:40, we've yet to play 4 minutes in this half, and we already have 2 scores.
Was that Larry Zonka? Boy, he just ran right through that defense and ran through at least 3 or 4 tackles that I noticed. And something that you like to see is just that leg drive that he has and the way he runs with his pads.
And the kick from Gustavo is up, and it is good, and we have a penalty flag. We saw a lot of these in the first half, and unfortunately we're seeing a few more of them here in the second half. We'll see if this is after the kick or during the kick. But currently, as indicated, 27-21. But let's wait and see.
They also need to figure out if this is something that needs to be assessed on the kickoff or something that results in that play right there. Holding on or personal foul on Eastlake. That'll be assessed
on the kickoff.
And this will give Inglemoor a shot at possibly using an onside kick and
getting
the ball back.
We just talked a few minutes ago about that 2-point conversion try that Eastlake had put out there and how perhaps it might come back to haunt them. Well, right now, Inglemoor gets a touchdown. We're going to tie ball game, try for point. They could take the lead in what just a few moments ago was a 13-point advantage.
Yeah, the longer Inglemoor hangs tight in this game, the more that play is going to loom So this is that's something to keep an eye on over the next 20 minutes or so.
Yeah, well, and now here's the piece of strategy. You have to think back to that 2-point conversion. Did they intend to do that, or was that just one of those triggers that they saw a formation and you just go for it and then they bobbled the snap?
Yeah, that in that situation, it is a trigger. What they do is they look to see how the defense is aligned. You always want to get free points if you can, and but it's just so hard. I'm not a big fan of doing that kind of stuff. I'm just line up and do it and kick it. But that means I'm actually 41 years old, so I'm not used to
old school.
Little old school.
That's right.
So,
well, here's the other question you have to ask. Because of the mark off of the penalty, the Vikings should be in Eastlake territory when they kick off. Is there the interest in potentially trying to take advantage of that and try an onside kick? You're in some probabilities here going to be kicking off from the 45-yard line.
And the ball would have to go to the 35-yard line. So at the very worst, you're probably looking at Eastlake having the ball at the 30 to 35-yard line, which isn't much worse than if you kicked it in the end zone.
Well, if you kick it out of bounds or kick it into the end zone, it's only going to be about a 15-yard difference or hardly any difference, depending on that. So we'll see, but the other opportunity to try and see if you can pooch it up high and get some good coverage, too.
Yeah, a chance to pin them down a little bit deeper and get the ball back.
Well, and this will change things up a little bit because Gunnar Allmeyer had been kicking off from deep, but it is Willie Augustavo, who does the extra point tries and the punting, that will try this one here. So maybe they have the onside try in his bag of tricks. Nope. I think he's going to try to put it through the uprights, and he doesn't get it there, but he gets it far out of the end zone. Kind of a lot of drama for not much bang at the end.
Hey, we have to build this thing up, right?
8:40 to go in the third quarter. Played less than 4 minutes, and bam, bam, a couple of touchdowns. It's 27-21. Eastlake with the 6-point lead, just the 6-point lead, after mishandling a 2-point try here just a few moments ago. But they'll set up shop on their own 20. Blue Thomas putting a man in motion. That is Castle. Here's the handoff to Lewis, who carries yet again for positive yardage, a 5-yard pickup on this one of his shorter carries, but it was all Drew Lewis on the opening drive of this half that got the Wolves out to their 4th touchdown of the night. Josh Kokel helping out on the tackle. Thomas will operate here with 2 receivers to either side. He puts Castle in motion, setting up trips to the high side of your screen. The handoff again to Lewis. And this one just a couple of yards. So 3rd and short coming up. But the Vikings, who had some great stops down deep in Eastlake territory in the second quarter, trying to do it again here and see if they can get the ball back, take the lead in this one.
Yeah, and this is something that it's 3rd and 3. It's manageable. They can complete in that final drive. They can complete 5 to 10-yard passes all night long. It's going to be a little bit tighter coverage here, but I would look for them to throw a short curl route or even something where they can get down the field if they can get single coverage.
Thomas looking for the swing pass right through the hands of Drew Lewis. They wanted to get it to their main man, but there were 2 white shirts right in his way.
Yeah, they've run that play so many times tonight. You knew that they were going to look at that, but what they're trying to do is on that play, if he sees the safety cheating up, they can send the wide receiver out behind that, and then you got one-on-one coverage. But on that play, the wide receiver just came down to try and block, and unfortunately they weren't able to get the play. Good defense by Inglemoor, though, too. You got to give them credit for reading the play and doing what they're supposed to do. Well,
I have a question about the defense, but we'll talk about that here after this punt coming up from Zachary Steinberg. Big right-footed end-over-end kick, and it's taken short by Isaiah Lewis trying to turn the corner. He'll get into Wolves territory, still being harassed here as he gets down inside the 45. One man had a hand on his jersey trying to pull him back, but jersey tackles aren't going to get the job done.
No, and one thing that I'm surprised at, because Lewis has shown a lot of elusiveness and a lot of open field skills. I'm surprised we haven't seen more of him in the actual offense. We really haven't seen him do anything other than returning punts and kicks.
Last week, Isaiah Lewis was in on a few plays in the game against Woodinville, took a tremendous hit in that game, and I'm wondering if they're limiting his use to explosive plays. But then again, we've got a whistle here on the field. A timeout, it looks like, taken by Inglemoor. So not the way you want to utilize your timeout, coming right after the change of possession. You've got great field position, and something was not right.
Yeah, and you say you don't want to use it, and that is true, but you also don't want to come up there and waste good field position like that because you made a mistake in alignment or whatever it was. So that was something that they had to call timeout. But, yeah, you're right. You don't want to use it because in a close game like this, you never know when you're going to need those timeouts. You're probably going to need them as this game winds down.
Well, we were talking a little bit about the defense of Inglemoor and how the effectiveness on Drew Lewis on this particular drive. Are they running a kind of a spy in there? Do you think they have one or two guys that are isolated, say, just follow this guy?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I don't think there's any question that that's happening. I think the linebackers are really spying him quite a bit. We saw what Tavanga was able to do on that on a couple of those last drives of the half, where they just belted Lewis because they were right there with him. And I think that's what you're starting to see. And so they need to figure out either other ways to get him involved, get the ball into his hands, or they need somebody to step up and be a playmaker in his place.
Well, to the offense go the Vikings. They've got a new quarterback in there, and he gets in there and pitches right away, finding Reese Duringer for a good gain on that right side. The new quarterback in there, Brandon Edwards, 6'1", 171-pound senior. He saw some time in the third quarter of the game last week against Woodinville, but they do tend to use Fortune quite a bit, but Edwards got a few drives for the Vikings and was fairly effective.
And that was a nice 8-yard gain out there for Duringer. And now they're at 2nd and 2. They can do a lot of different things with this kind of a yardage. Oh,
Cartwright in motion, and we've got a flag here before the play could get off. 6:29 to go in the third, and the Vikings looking to try to take their first lead of the contest here on this drive, but they're going to have to do it from a little further back, a 5-yard loss.
Sorry about that, Alex. I just, sometimes when I'm watching TV, I'm watching a game on TV, I'll go, oh, there you go, and that's what happened right there. You saw the back right there just try to get a little too antsy. You know what, that's a situation where he either had a big-time block he had to make, or he was going to get the ball. And
got jittery feet.
Yep.
So from 2nd down and 7 now, they'll try. The pass in and out of the hands of Eric Strathy. Fairly reliable most of the time, at least he was in the first half. He was at the other end of that 45-yard touchdown play from Hans Fortune, but Brandon Edwards in there. I think a little more zip on the ball that time, but no excuse for Strathy, I'm sure he'll say.
And if Austin Hooker had actually been expecting it, he was the cornerback out on that side and went right through Strathy's hand, and I think it hit Hooker right in the thigh pad, and it's just because he wasn't expecting it to be right there.
Big 3rd and 8 here. 4 receivers in the set. They show blitz, delayed blitz. Here's the pass, nearly picked off by the Wolves. Oh, my goodness. Joshua Horton could not hang on.
Yeah, that was right in his hands, and he had pick 6 in his eyes. And Fortune, even right after Fortune threw that, he started running because he knew he was going to have to make a tackle. And luckily for Inglemoor, he wasn't able to make it. But if you're Eastlake, you got to take advantage of opportunities like that. Now,
well, they're going to go through it 4th and 7 here.
They're 1 for 1 on 4th down conversions so far, I believe.
Well, and it is Hans Fortune back in the game after Brandon Edwards starting this drive. Fortune, good drop, looking for the receiver. He finds him inside the 30-yard line, complete for the first down. So Hans Fortune gaining momentum and confidence here in this contest.
Great throw out there to Jacob Cartwright, who made the nice catch. I'm sorry, that isn't Jake Cartwright. That's Dylan Gongliuski, 6 foot, 180-pound senior there. Dropped it right over the linebacker who had dropped back into coverage and made a nice play out of it.
Huge first down for the Vikings after it looked like they might be turned back after a penalty had stalled their drive a little bit. Here's the give inside, and running with it is Max Vanderhoffen. And the sophomore able to get maybe a yard, maybe a foot.
Yeah, I think it's more like a foot on that one. He didn't get much push on that, but he's a tough runner. Boy, I've really been impressed with the way he's running the ball tonight.
5'9", 200-pounder, and a youngster that's going to be around this Viking program for a while. 2nd down and 10, 5:26 to go in the third period. Vikings down 6. Looking for 6 here from Fortune. He's got time to throw, finds a man inside. It's nearly picked off as Richard Blue Thomas, the quarterback and safety, almost was going the other direction.
Well, sometimes there's a reason people are quarterbacks instead of receivers, and I think that was probably a reason why. He was right in the right position. He has a chance to make a play. That's 2 dropped interceptions right now by Eastlake, and something that Inglemoor is going to have to take advantage of. Now, that being said, Fortune had a running back open out in the flat. He might not have gotten the first down, but he could have got it 5 yards pretty easily. Didn't see him, threw the ball, and actually stared down his receiver.
Well, the Vikings fortunate not to have that one picked off. They set up trips on the right side with the motion. Fortune has the man that was in motion, and it's complete near the first down marker. They might be just a little bit short. It's going to be close. And that one complete to Dylan Gongluski.
It looks like it's going to be 4th down. It's just short. I think this is one you go for right here.
Yep. Not much to gain unless you are within 3 points and feel like you'd like to try for the field goal. But right here, 4th and inches. Three backs in the backfield along with Hans Fortune. And they give it to Jones, who's not going to get it, I don't think. Wow, it's going to be close.
Yeah, this is that left foot, right foot spot. Which foot is he using to spot it? On that one you saw, I don't know who turned the wrong way or who went the wrong way, because it looked like Fortune didn't know exactly where his running back was going to be. I always tend to err on the side of the quarterback, that he knew what he was doing, and the running back made the wrong read on that. So.
Well, and sometimes you just never know how it's going to go. It looks like they're going to measure this one. It is that close. PlayOnSports.com is not only your destination for Friday night football action, but it's also the place for the most comprehensive coverage of high school playoff and championship events in all sports from across the country. PlayOnSports.com. High school sports lives here. And the Wolves able to hold firm. They turn back the Vikings on that 4th and inches.
Well, and that's too bad if you're Inglemoor, because you had a lot of momentum. Now you have to come back out. Your defense has to come out, get a stop, and make a play. And if you're Eastlake, you definitely want to get at least 3 or 4 first downs, start winning this field position battle again, so that you can now own the time of possession.
Well, it's been one of those situations where Eastlake has not really been in, quote, jeopardy, because they've always had the lead or been tied. Here they have the lead, but with a touchdown and an extra point, the Vikings could take the lead. They come out firing, and they complete it right away. Tyler Ackerman, the tight end, gains about 6 on that pass completion from Blue Thomas. Nick Russell coming up for the stop. Russell saw a lot of carries for the Vikings last week, but playing exclusively defense this week.
Haven't seen Eastlake throw down the field very much tonight. Most of their stuff have been dink and dunk stuff. They've thrown a few slants and things like that. Here's a nice one to Lewis outside.
It's an option on the pitch. Lewis getting some yardage, enough for the first down. But that thing was flung out there, and I'm not sure if I'm an Eastlake fan that I really like that play.
Now, okay, and I understand where you're coming from. It's a high-risk play because of the pitch. I've never been a huge option guy. But that was open for more running. The only reason that didn't go for much further was Jake Jones came up and made a great play because Lewis had some open field.
But that thing was just hanging in the air there for a second.
Oh, you got to take some risks, Alex.
Oh, no risk, no reward. Blue Thomas handing it off again to Mr. Reliable, who secures it and falls forward for maybe a yard. Jason Chose in on the stop.
I really like the way Inglemoor is flying to the ball tonight. They've looked pretty good.
Thomas again, same set. He's got Lewis back there. Looking across the middle, has a complete to Ackerman. He's got the first down and more. So they're working it to Ackerman here on this drive. They found a mismatch that they like.
Nice 15-yard gain in there to the big wide receiver tight end for them, and got some momentum. And like I said, now you can start thinking about, okay, what are we going to do here? We going to go down the field? We going to just keep dinking and dunking this thing? Where are we going with it?
A lot of time, decides to pull it down and run. Struggling to get back to the line of scrimmage, does so and falls forward for maybe a yard. Thomas got happy feet back there for a moment. It looked like he had pretty good protection, but didn't find anybody open.
Yeah, good job there by Cam Miller pursuing from his nose tackle spot. He's only 5'11", 200 pounds, playing nose tackle, but has looked really good tonight, rushing the quarterback, gotten some pressure on him, and really caused that one to go awry as well.
2:14 to go in the third quarter. Wolves trying to add to their 6-point advantage. Two receivers to either side, and Blue dumping it off to Lewis in the middle. Breaks one tackle, but not another. Gets about a yard and a half. It'll bring up 3rd and long.
And there you see Jacob Cartwright. He's just kind of been mirroring Lewis all night. Every time he touches the ball, he doesn't have very much room to make a play with. And that's great game planning by Inglemoor, because he's the best player on or at least the most explosive player on Eastlake's team.
Well, the ball nosed into Inglemoor territory as we approach the 90-second mark here in the third. Again, two receivers to either side. Thomas in and out of the hands of the intended receiver, Jeffrey Fineglass, and he went up high and then had a hard time coming down and is still struggling to get up as he got hit from behind when he was up in the air. And that one always a dangerous play when you see the receiver go up in the air and then hit from behind.
Yeah, and it actually looks like it's one of the Inglemoor players.
Oh, is it?
That's down, yeah.
Well, we're blocked a little bit from the bench of the Wolves. 1:24 to go in the third period of action, a 27-21 count. And they tend to the injured player down there. And right now our scoreboard here is...
It looks like it says 27-27. But
yep, and maybe a little bit presumptuous
yeah.
In that, but hopefully they can attend to the player. And in this case, anytime you get some elevation and you start to get some of that contact around the neck area and around the head, it can always, especially in this sport, be a dangerous situation.
Yeah, and especially with these kids, like they're always going to err on the side of caution, whether it be penalties called or making sure that the player is stable and that they don't have any injury or anything like that, anything serious wrong with them.
And you want them to take every precaution that they possibly can. And as they tend to him near the Eastlake sideline. We'll let you know right now that if you want to watch more of your school's great matchups like the game you're enjoying here tonight, you can tell your school to sign up for the Play On Sports School Broadcast Program.
And I think
the program allows schools to broadcast all their games and other activities on the web. For more information, go to playonsports.com/SBP.
Sorry about that, Alex. Looks like they're going to bring on the ambulance for him.
And while they tend to the injured player, we're going to take a break. We'll step aside here with 1:24 remaining in the third period. And the home Eastlake Wolves leading the Inglemoor Vikings by a score of 27-21. We'll be back after this timeout on the PlayOnSports.com, your destination for high school sports.
One match away from immortality.
This is a total team effort.
We're gonna come at you.
One shot.
one match away from immortality.
This is a total team effort.
We're gonna come at you.
One shot at this.
Back at Eastlake High School, Alex Webster along with Scott Eklund. We're at the 1:24 mark in the third quarter. Eastlake leading Inglemoor 27-21, but the greater concern right now, as we've had a bit of a delay, about 15 minutes or so, as they were tending to one of the Inglemoor Vikings, Isaiah Lewis, who has been put on a board as well as a gurney and has been helped out of the stadium. And we don't want to speculate on anything at this point in time other than to pass along our well wishes and hopes that this is not something that is severe and that he will rebound from this. I know last week in the game against Woodinville, we saw him take a couple of big hits. He is the one of the spark plugs, a 5'11", 167-pound sophomore who's a return guy, can run it, is a defensive back, and it was as a defensive back that the injury was sustained.
Yeah, it looked like he went just a little. The wide receiver had gone up high to make the catch, and he hit him in the lower back with his helmet, and it looked like he just injured something. Like you said, we don't want to speculate. He was moving his legs at one point, so that is a good sign. But they always want to. We mentioned this earlier. They always want to be extra careful. So maybe there was a situation where it isn't that bad, but they're going to take every precaution possible to make sure these athletes and these students and these kids are safe. And so they got him. They're going to take him to a medical facility and check him out, and hopefully we'll hear something.
And so we wish Isaiah Lewis and his family a speedy recovery, and that this is not a major injury for him.
And now this is the tough part, where you got to regroup, got to get focused back, especially Inglemoor. That's one of their friends, one of their teammates that just went down. Now they got to focus.
And it was because of the play of Isaiah Lewis, in part, that his fourth down was brought up, and it's Isaiah Lewis who's usually one of the return men. It will be someone else this time for the Vikings. In fact, it is Spencer DeWitt, and there is a penalty flag that is down. So for the Inglemoor Vikings, it'll be interesting to see how they respond to the fallen comrade. But for both teams, the delay of about 15 minutes or so, 20 to 15 minutes as they treated Isaiah Lewis here at Eastlake High School Stadium.
Yeah, they just need to regroup here and get focused, and I'm sure he would want them to go out and play their hardest and win the game and not worry about him. So that's kind of what they have to do, although our thoughts and concerns are with him as well.
1:13 to go in the third, and the Vikings will back up a little bit further as there was a penalty on the return. Spencer DeWitt, the backup return man, his efforts will be rebuffed by this penalty. So all the way back to the 7 go the Vikings. So they'll have 93 yards separating them and the potential lead in this game.
I think we're going to see a lot of Jake Jones, at least in this part of the field. Just get yourself back some. You just want to get a first down here just to get the chains moving so that you can actually get some better field position here.
Jake Jones is the back there with Hans Fortune, and he'll open it up. He's got a man on the near sideline for the first down, and he runs out of bounds. The receiver, Dylan Gongluski. Gongo is his nickname. They call him Gongo. And he goes gonzo for a big pickup and gets him out from the shadow of the goalpost.
That was a cover 2 right there, and they were able to find that soft spot. It's right along the sideline there in the 15 to 20-yard range, and Fortune found him and was able to get the ball moving. And now they can do some different things.
Fortune out of that pistol offense run by Inglemoor. The handoff to Jones. Good hole off that left side. He's got about 9 yards, maybe the full 10 for the first down. The linesman signaling for the first down, and so back-to-back movements of the chains by the Inglemoor offense that is coming alive here after the injury to Isaiah Lewis.
And another really good run by Jones.
And, of course, under a minute to go now here in the third. Eastlake has led throughout this contest. The Vikings trying to get their first lead of the game to try and secure their first win of the season. Out at the 48-yard line. They hand it off. No, they fake it. And this time fortunate to get rid of it as he had a red jersey right in his face, and he dumped it short of the running back in the flat.
They were trying to get it out there to Reese Duringer and just weren't able to find him. I'm sorry, that was Cartwright. I'm going to get those numbers confused a lot. My mistake. But anyway, they're trying to get out to Cartwright in the flat there, but they had that completely bottled up. Even if he hadn't had pressure on him, that was covered up, so he would have had to look down the field anyway.
2nd down and 10 with 32 seconds to go in the third period. Hans Fortune out of the pistol. Man in motion. Fortune can't get rid of it. He's going to hold on to himself. Good gainer out of a busted play. And a penalty flag is down. So we'll sort it all out after about an 8-yard pickup by Fortune, but it may be coming back.
Yeah, it looks like there's going to be a hold or a block in the back, one of the two.
Not sure if that was a completely busted play. I don't believe that that's what they wanted to do.
No.
And the hold will just kind of add insult to injury.
But he actually made a good play out of that. Granted, the hold probably helped the reason why he was able to get free. But he actually made some positive yardage out of that, so you have to like that. Especially a guy 6'6" being able to run around like that.
So they'll back it up, and it's going to be a mile to go here on 2nd down and probably close to 18. We'll make that 2nd down and 19. So let's see what they have in their arsenal for that particular play call.
And they could let this just go out. They could just let the clock run out, but it doesn't look like they're going to do that.
Nope, 11 seconds to go in the quarter. They snap it to Fortune. He's looking to pass. He's got a man, but it's in between 4 defenders, and the clock stops with 4 seconds to go.
And if you're the offensive coordinator at Inglemoor, that you're saying to yourself, that's not how we designed it, not to throw into quadruple coverage like that. But honestly, that was just 4 verticals that they just ran, and Eastlake had that covered up really well.
3rd and 19. And at this point, I know one of your favorites is the quick kick.
It is, but it's usually when because your quarterback isn't really much of a punter usually. But we'll see. I doubt they do the quick kick. They still got another time.
Trips to the high side of the screen. Fortune going for it all. Got a receiver, Strathey, who has it, stays in bounds, and is out of bounds at the 21-yard line. 3rd and 19 is converted on the final play of the third quarter. And we'll be back with the Vikings of Inglemoor driving for potentially the go-ahead score. It's the Eastlake Wolves leading the Inglemoor Vikings 27-21. Fourth quarter action coming up next on PlayOnSports.com. Start of the fourth quarter here from Eastlake High School in Sammamish, Washington. Eastlake Wolves have led throughout. They've got the advantage 27-21, but the Inglemoor Vikings are knocking on the door.
And what we saw right there was just that Strathey has gotten behind the defense several times tonight. Now, on that play, he wasn't behind the defense, but he was the only one who turned around and made a play on the ball. The defender was right there, just didn't make a play on the ball, and that's a set up Inglemoor in great field position. This could end up being a 95-yard drive if they take this in.
They had it to start at their own 7-yard line, so pretty close. Yeah, it could be a length of the field drive just about for the Vikings, but they've got it 1st and 10 at the 21. The pitch nearly dropped, but holding on to it and gaining good yardage is Reese Duringer. He'll get about 4.
On those pitch plays, that's hard for the running back because he wants to be able to look at the hole, but he also has to make sure he gets the ball in his hands too, so that's not always the easiest thing to do. And on that, he bobbled the ball, but was able to get up and get about 3 or 4 yards out of it.
No, call it a pickup of 3. So 2nd and 7 now inside the red zone. 11:23 to go in the game. Fortune getting rid of it. Incomplete. Looking for Strathey again, but good coverage by the Vikings, or rather by the Wolves.
And good job there by Brandon Kaufman from his defensive end position for the Wolves. Got in there, pressured Fortune, hit him from behind just as he threw the ball, which made that pass go errant.
So 3rd and 7. And they completed on 3rd and 19 for the final play of the 3rd quarter. And they're down 6. This might be 2-down territory. Man in motion. Fortune looking to pass again. He's got his man. Ducks one defender almost. Picks up about 6 yards, maybe 5. It's going to be 4th down, but it'll be 4th and maybe 2. And we'll see if the Vikings elect to go. I'll bet you they do at 4th and 2.
Yeah, it looks like they're going to.
They're getting the play call from over on the sideline.
They better hurry, though.
Down to 13 seconds on the play clock. They've
got to get lined up quick.
Now to 6 seconds on the clock. Strathey running out to that position high atop the screen. They get it just off in time. Fortune trying to get rid of it, completes it, but it might be short. It's going to be close.
I think it is short.
It is just short.
That's what happens when you take too long. Guys get in a hurry.
Great defensive stop by the Eastlake Wolves, as it looked like the Vikings were positioned right on the doorstop to take the go-ahead score, but the Vikings turned away by a stellar defensive set by the Eastlake Wolves.
Harper got in there. Eric Harper, number 7 for Eastlake, really pressured Fortune into making that quick throw.
And great play by the defensive back to make that contact to push the receiver forward instead of letting him fall forward. Here's a handoff to Lewis. He's been quiet. Flag is down, but he may go to the 50. Breaks the tackle of one man. He's going to go. But will it come back? Touchdown, Eastlake, waiting for the flag.
That'll be an 87-yarder if this isn't brought back. We'll see what happens.
And Inglemoor players celebrating on the field, so I believe we're headed back the other way. And it is a hold against Eastlake.
But as you can see, though, when he gets in the open field, there's no one on this field, at least tonight, that's able to cover, that's able to match him from an athleticism and speed standpoint. So once again, he's a player that the Eastlake Wolves really want to get the ball into his hands as much as possible.
Well, the Wolves have it at their own 12-yard line. It'll be half the distance to the goal from there, or the spot of the foul. We'll see how they adjudicate this particular penalty, but the ultimate penalty.
Big words. Adjudicate.
The big penalty, though, for the Wolves is the fact they don't get the score.
Oh, yeah. I mean, that's a killer, but that is one of the reasons he was sprung on that play, too. You know, the wide receiver had a little bit of a hold right there on the defensive back that wasn't able to collapse on the hole.
So they mark it from the spot of the foul, half the distance. It's notched in there at the 15-yard line, or rather at the 8-yard line, where it will be 1st and 15. And for the Wolves, run it again.
Yeah, now see, I've always been a big fan of running to the trip side on these kind of sets.
They have it to the far side of the field. This one just a straight handoff, or rather direct snap to Blue, run a little wildcat, if you will. He gets a good chunk of it back. It'll bring up second and about 8.
Yeah, 7-yard gain for Blue on that one. Blue Thomas.
Jake Jones helping to bring him down. Under 10 minutes to go now in this ball game. Eastlake nursing that 6-point lead.
And here, if you're Eastlake, you just want to just grind this thing out. Get 4 and 5 yards every time you carry the ball, and keep this clock moving to get out of here with a win.
And big one is also hang on to the football. Drew Lewis rumbling ahead. A little bit short of the first down, but another good gain. It'll bring up 3rd and short after a 1st and 15. After that big penalty that brought back that would-be score. 3rd and a long one. Drew Lewis already with 3 touchdowns in this one for the Wolves. 2 on the ground, 1 via reception. 3rd and 1. Thomas going to take it himself, and he is brought down. He is going to be shy.
That was caused by a bad snap. It was high. He had to go up and get it before he could start running. And good stop by Inglemoor. They've given themselves a chance on this.
Indeed. Inglemoor coming up with a big stop, catching their breath after that penalty that brought that Drew Lewis long run back. So here is Wolf punter Zachary Steinberg to boot this one away. And racing up to try and field it and getting it and then getting whacked is Jake Lindlof.
Ooh,
that was a dangerous play.
Yeah, I was holding my breath, both for the collision that was going to happen and if you're Inglemoor, you had to be holding your breath just because if he gets popped, that's when you see guys fumble, is when you see something, when they're running full speed to catch a punt. But on the other hand, when it's punted short like that, you have to make a decision. Do I come up and take this, or do I possibly let it bounce and get 20, 30 more yards on a bounce because of it?
Well, the Vikings will start in Wolves territory here with 8:12 to go, trailing by 1 touchdown. They give it to their main man, Jones, who has found the sledding tough here in this second half. He gets nary a yard on it. And it'll bring up 2nd down and 10. Make it 2nd and 9. They'll give him credit for a hard-fought yard. Stay tuned for the PlayOnSports.com postgame show, where we will select our player of the game as well as wrap up all the action from this one. That's coming up following the game on your destination for high school sports, PlayOnSports.com.
Watch Strathey out here.
Strathey on the near side. Little fake. They look for a receiver in coverage. Jake Lindlof, the intended man. But that one dropped in between a few folks, and we have an Eastlake player down in the backfield, the offensive backfield of the Vikings. And not what you want to see. We've already had to wish Isaiah Lewis well after being helped off the field via stretcher. This one does not look as severe as Brandon Kaufman, listed as a offensive guard and nose tackle. At just 5'11", 215 pounds, a battler, a scrappy one in the middle of everything.
Yeah, got in there and actually hit Fortunate right as he threw the ball and might have knocked the wind out of himself or stunned himself just a little bit.
So a big 3rd down and 9 coming up after the Vikings getting excellent field position after the short punt a moment ago. This will actually be the 2nd time that they've been in Eastlake territory and not been able to get on the board unless they can convert this. Fortune faking right, now looking left. It's got a man, it's Lindlof, but it's knocked away.
And that was a great play over there by Blue Thomas, who came over from his safety spot, knocked the ball away, actually had a chance to pick it off again.
That's one of the things that you talk about, having your cake and eating it too. The cake is the great play eating it too is when you can get it and go the other direction with it. And that's one of those things that will be picked up with some more experiences. Blue Thomas, just a sophomore here for the Wolves.
Yeah, unless there's a mistake by Inglemoor, they're going to be able to put him in some pretty bad field position, it looks like.
Augustavo with the punt and the Inglemoor roll, and it's fielded down at the 1-yard line. Does it go in, or are they going to have it down at the 1? Down at the 1-yard line.
Great punt.
Great coverage as well for the Vikings. So they're going to give the Wolves the longest part of the field to have to get some insurance on this 6-point lead. 6:41 to go in the ball game, and the Vikings have just been 6 down for what seems to be an eternity here.
Yeah, well, they've been 6 down ever since. Eastlake actually went up 27-14, but then they came right back and scored at the very beginning of the third quarter as well, and it's been a defensive struggle ever since then.
Safety a possibility here as the Vikings stuff Lewis. It looks like in the end zone they do. A safety for the Inglemoor Vikings. So the special teams play and the defensive hustle here net them a couple of points on the board.
Not what you wanted to see if you're obviously if you're a Eastlake Wolf, but you know what? Honestly, this now gets them out to punt or kickoff, most likely punt. Almost everybody chooses a punt on the free kick. And they'll be able to get a chance to start working this back in their favor as far as field position is concerned. And there's 6 minutes and 35 seconds left. So this is enough time for Inglemoor to do something or Eastlake to come back, even if Inglemoor does do something.
Well, right after we started the third quarter, Drew Lewis and company for the Wolves went the length of the field, and a little over a minute and a half gone in the second half, they took a 27-14 lead. But the Vikings came roaring back and scored on a 12-yard run by Max Vanderhoffen with 8:40 to go in the third. And these are the first 2 points we've seen since that point. And it comes at the 6:35 mark. It gives Inglemoor an opportunity here as they edge a little bit closer, but still a 4-point lead for Eastlake. So a field goal won't help the Vikings unless they can pair it together with something. So the Wolves have to feel somewhat comfortable there because just a few moments ago a touchdown and an extra point would have given Inglemoor the lead. So the safety at this point not appearing to be any kind of a death blow.
No, it really isn't. And like you said, I mean, this isn't something that they can go down and kick a field goal and tie this and that's a huge mistake right there.
Well, Inglemoor finally getting their hands on it and getting out past the 35-yard line, but not good coverage on the kickoff/punt return. It's always an interesting situation. You don't see safeties too often in these games, and yet these guys have to try and cover a punt in kickoff return mode.
Yeah, and that's where you see the loss of Isaiah Lewis really hurting them, because Isaiah Lewis is their main punt returner and probably would have been the man that they had back there to take that punt or that free kick back.
And nonetheless, momentum as they're riding a 9-point run in this one against the Wolves. And the Vikings trying to keep that run going. Trailing by 4. They hand it off in the backfield. Duringer, I believe, or rather Vanderhoffen, loses, or rather no gain on that carry. So the Wolves stepping up the defense here in this fourth quarter.
Yeah, good push inside, not allowing Vanderhoeven, who's a tough runner.
Right now.
They just didn't let him get behind his pads at all.
And Inglemoor has had much better field position than this here. They've actually had, this is their third drive to try and take the lead, and they've had it on the doorstep but couldn't convert. So the Wolves have really stepped up the defense here since the early parts of the third quarter, and that one
that's just
is
self-harm
right there. Eric Strathy could not hang on to it. It would have been good for maybe about a 5-yard pickup, but it goes for naught, and it'll be 3rd and 10 for the Vikings. And Inglemoor, we have not seen a lot of Jake Jones here in this fourth quarter.
Yeah, and Strathy is usually a pretty sure-handed wide receiver. He's made the big plays. He's over 100 yards receiving on 4 receptions. and has one of the touchdowns. So that's not something we've seen from him very much tonight, if at all, this season.
Big third down play with 5:46 to go in the game. Fortune finding his man, or was it knocked down? It's incomplete. Great play by Cam Nelson coming up and knocking that one down.
Yeah, Nelson reads the play. The wide receiver gets his perfect depth. He's right at about 11 yards where they needed to be to get a first down, and broke on the play. And if the receiver continues back, he probably makes that catch, but maybe he doesn't get the first down, and that's something that you have to teach him, is how to come back, catch it, and spin so they can get that first down.
So punting formation for the Vikings again. For Eastlake, Jeffrey Feinglass back deep. Augustavo's been a busy guy. Skies this one up. They pinned Eastlake back at the 1 yard line. This one's going to take a Wolves bounce. And an ill-advised recovery on that one by Troy Markson as he reaches back to grab the ball. Not exactly the position you want to be in to secure that pass, or rather that punt.
Yeah, not something you want to see, but you know what? It worked. The thing is, had he not touched it, that might have actually...
It might have gained him more yards.
Yeah, got more yards for him. So, and it keeps you from possibly losing it. But now, if you're Eastlake, you need to grind this out. You need to run this clock down as much as possible and get some positive yardage.
Blue Thomas handing off. This is our man Drew. Drew Lewis got stopped for that safety a few minutes ago, but gets some good yardage here as they've got plenty of room to breathe. And as you said, running the ball, keeping the clock moving. Inglemoor with just 2 timeouts remaining. Eastlake, should they need them, they have 3. Second down and 6 coming up. That's Castle in motion. The handoff to Lewis again, finds a seam into the secondary and is brought down after bringing another first down to the tally of the Eastlake Wolves, and he's into Viking territory. 9 consecutive points run off in this half by the Vikings on a touchdown run and a safety. The Wolves have not scored since Drew Lewis rumbled in from 1 yard out with 10:22 to go in the third quarter. So just those opening couple of minutes of the third quarter, that's the last time the Wolves were on the board. Castle in motion again. The handoff to Lewis, or is it Thomas this time? We've got a flag right in the middle of things. It was Thomas keeping it. Lost some yardage, and they may lose some more.
And whenever that umpire throws the flag, it's almost always holding.
And I'm working with Nostradamus. Another solid prediction on the yellow flags. And I think all of us here appreciating the work that the officials do, and no more so than as we've observed the battle that the officials had within the NFL at that ranks, but certainly appreciating the work that all of the officials do at all of the levels of our sport, keeping the game moving and keeping the sides in check.
I think a lot of pro football fans are very happy to see the regular officials back, especially after what happened over at Quest Field. Packer fans are happy to see the regular officials back.
First down and 21 after the hold and the loss. Thomas going to the air, skips this one incomplete. Was looking for Jeffrey Feinglass, but left it a little bit short.
Yeah, and on that one, I mean, he had his man wide open, so that's just inexperience by the youngster. He needs to drive that ball, step into it, drive it, and throw it. Pitch and catch, he was trying to aim that one.
And that penalty against the Wolves is actually doubly more effective for the Vikings because it puts the Wolves in passing situations where the clock will stop with an incompletion, allowing them to conserve timeouts. And, of course, a long way to go here on second down and 21. They look to Lewis. He's got a seam again. Gets a lot of it back, but it's still going to be third and long for Eastlake.
And if it wasn't for Matt Vinson making the tackle there from his safety spot, Lewis is gone. He's already in the end zone because that was wide open.
And how often have we seen him get into the secondary on the run, running through a good hole north and south, and then it's a desperation play by the Inglemoor defensive backfield to bring him down.
Several times tonight.
3rd and 15. Thomas trying to find a receiver, didn't have one. Now he's running for his life. Ill-advised throw. And fortunately, if you're a Wolf fan or one of the Wolves, that goes down as an incompletion and or fumble recovery. I'm not sure which one it was, but nonetheless, the Eastlake retains possession. But not for long, as it will force the punt. Zachary Steinberg on.
And actually, the other problem is that incompletion stops the clock, too. This thing could have run all the way down to under 3 minutes before they punted it.
We're at 3:25, and here's the punt on its way. And they're running away from this one. The Wolves trying to get down it. Little shove in the back there by Eric Strathey on the guy running down the field.
And they almost got it.
They almost got to it, but it will go into the end zone. So right now, 80 yards separating the Inglemoor Vikings from potentially their first lead in this game and their first victory of the year. Just 3:18 to go on the clock, trailing by 4 in a ball game that's had sprints of scoring and then long lulls.
And what I see Eastlake doing is they're not going to be super aggressive. They're probably going to play a bit of a cloud.
Fortune on play action, finds a man, good for the first down, and a big hit taken by Jackson Gardner after making the catch. And he is slow to get up, but he does pop up.
That was a great catch because that was under huge duress.
Gardner with tremendous size, 6'4", just a sophomore. He's going to add to that 197-pound frame, and he's going to make a good, solid prospect at the next level. So a first down for Inglemoor, something they've been struggling to find here. Under 3 minutes to go, 2:56 and counting down. Fortune handling the blitz, drops it off underneath, but for short yardage, and the clock will continue to run. Maybe a 3-yard pickup, and that's not going to get it done. They're hoping for a little more yardage after the contact. 2nd down and 7.
And for those that don't know the way the Eastlake press box is set up, we've got the Eastlake coaches on our left and the Inglemoor coaches on our right.
We've got a flag before the snap of the ball here. Offsides on the Wolves. We've seen this before.
Yeah, big mistake here. And especially since it's the nose tackle, James Bradley is right over the center. And, I mean, all you got to do is look at the ball, see what's going on. So he was just trying to get a jump on the snap and gave them 5 yards, something you don't want to do.
2nd and 2, but more importantly, the clock continuing to run here. 2:05 remaining in the game. Inglemoor 60 yards away from the end zone. They set up a screen, getting it to Jones. He's been quiet, but he gets the first down here and out near midfield.
And actually, that looked like it could have gone for a lot further, but Joshua Horton came up and made Jones make his first move a lot sooner than he wanted to. And yes, they did get the first down, but he kept it from being an even bigger gain.
Out to the 48-yard line, the Vikings nearing Eastlake territory. 1:48 to go. 2 timeouts remain for the Vikings, however. Fortune looking a little bit deeper, and it's nearly picked off. Cutting across was Jeffrey Feinglass, but he couldn't get to it.
Yeah, and that's not a throw you want to throw if you're Fortune. You never want to throw it late over the middle, and that's what he did right there. Got away with it, but in the film room on, I don't know if they watch it tomorrow or on Sunday, whatever day they watch film, they're going to tell him that's not a throw you make.
Well, it does stop the clock with the incompletion, allows them to regroup a little bit. 1 minute, 40 seconds to go in the ball game. Field goal won't do it. A touchdown is what the Vikings of Inglemoor need here. Fortune rolling out is picked off. Wolves get the first turnover of the ball game, and it comes at the most critical spot for the Vikings.
Yeah, and that was, we've seen Fortune get away with it all night, throwing it across the middle, throwing it into coverage. He hadn't been picked off. Finally, Fineglass made him pay for it and made a nice pick on that play.
And that will just about do it. But keep in mind, Inglemoor has played some good defense. They've got 2 timeouts remaining. So really, the Wolves of Eastlake needing just 1 first down, maybe 2 first downs to salt this one away. They'll spread it out as they have all night. Castle in motion in front of Blue Thomas, who hands it off to Drew Lewis, gets into the secondary. He could be gone. 30, 20, one man to beat. Touchdown, Eastlake. Drew Lewis, his 4th touchdown of the night, his 3rd one running, and this one goes for a bundle. 62 yards on the touchdown run, and that is the final nail in the coffin.
And that's 216 yards and 3 touchdowns for Lewis right now. And as you saw, whenever he gets in the open field, he is explosive and ready to take it the distance. Inglemoor doesn't have a ton of speed, so he was able to run away from them, but he'd be able to do that against most defenses, honestly.
They'll try the extra point here, and it is up. And the kick by Steinberg is good. So Drew Lewis, 3 on the ground, 1 in the air. He's had a 44-yarder and now a 62-yarder to go with a 1-yard plunge. And the Eastlake Wolves lead it now 34-23. And I'd have to say our player of the game is, if you can't figure it out, you haven't been watching this game.
Yeah,
it's got to be Drew Lewis.
Yeah. I don't think there's any question. He's got 222. I had a 216, but I missed a run. 222 yards rushing with 3 touchdowns. He also has, trying to find my stats here, he also has 3 catches for 36 yards as well.
Well, as they say, stranger things have happened, and we know that here in Seattle this week.
Yes.
But with Eastlake kicking off, Inglemoor, they trail by 9, or rather by 11, but nonetheless, still within 2 touchdown scores. A quick return here, an onside kick recovery. Anything can happen.
Yeah.
So it's not completely over, but it's looking fairly dim for the Vikings as they would reach pretty much rarefied air here under their head coach Frank Nash, as I don't think they've ever seen 0-5. The last time they were 0-4 was 1969, and that predates their head coach Frank Nash, who's in his 34th year. So this is not the season that they had hoped for, but injuries have been taking their toll, and this one whistled before the kickoff. Not sure exactly if we were ready for it. No penalty flags are in view, or there I see it all the way across the field.
Remember that night up at Eastlake that we were announcing we had blue flags that we had to try and spot on the AstroTurf. Not the easiest thing in the world.
Indeed.
I said AstroTurf. I meant field turf.
I think people know what you're
Okay,
talking
good.
about. The artificial surfaces
I had to do the
these
copyright.
days.
I had to have the copyright going there.
The trademark privileges
trademarks,
and
yeah.
whatnot. So looks like we've got offsides on Eastlake. So, and of course, as they do, they don't just walk it off. They got to tell you, and then they walk it off. That's part of the rules here in high school football in the state of Washington. And so they will put it down at the 35, which is a little more familiar spot for those that follow the college game and the pro game. But 1 minute, 20 seconds to go, and Eastlake adding to what had been at that time a 4-point lead to take a 34-23 advantage on a big 62-yard run by Drew Lewis. And the Vikings trying to make a miracle comeback in this one. This one is kicked back deep, fielded by Nick Russell. One of the few times he's had his hand on the ball. He'll take it out to the 30-yard line, and that's where the Vikings will work in desperation here with now 1 minute, 10 seconds to go in the game.
Yeah, so now if you're Eastlake, you're just going to play deep coverage, let this thing go, and try and get out of here with your second win of the season and first win in league. They're going to be 1-1 in league, 2-3 on the season, and now you can start working with momentum. And if you're Inglemoor, this has to be a little bit heartbreaking because you were in this game. You had plenty of chances to get ahead. You just weren't able to take advantage of it.
Hans Fortune picked off again, and that's going to do it. Fortune has not been fortunate in the second half, at least his last two passes picked off, and we'd had a turnover-free ball game until just the last minute.
Yeah. And Fortune actually had a pretty good game, made some good decisions, but he was thrown into coverage all night, and he's paid for it on his last two pass attempts.
I think what Inglemoor will rue for the most part are those opportunities that they had earlier in this quarter. They were down in the red zone and were rebuffed on 4 consecutive plays, could not get it in, and that was not the end of the game, but that was their best shot.
And not just that, they had the ball on the 48-yard line to start, and they had taken advantage of that field position most of the night, but unfortunately weren't able to do that.
And we've got a timeout taken by Eastlake, as they have 2 more left, but with 1:04 left to go in the game, up 34-23, and the ball fairly deep in Viking territory. We're pretty much just waiting the taking of the knee in this contest. We want to invite you to stay tuned for the PlayOnSports.com postgame show. We will select our player of the game as well as wrap up all the action from this contest. That's coming up following the game on your destination for high school sports, PlayOnSports.com. For the Eastlake Wolves, they continue their battle in 4A KingCo Crest Division play as they will host the Woodinville Falcons next week. Woodinville 3-1 and beating the same Inglemoor Vikings last week for their first win in division action. They're going out of league and taking on Monroe tonight. A handoff for the Wolves, carried well as they start to get a few folks in there. Josh Horton getting the carry on that one. Max Vanderhoffen getting the stop. 2nd down and 4 as we're under 40 seconds to go in this one.
Should just have to run one more play, and that would be it.
This is Beam that's in there at quarterback, and he just takes the knee. And the clock will run down here as they get the ball set. And they will not need to run another play. You are correct. 19 seconds to go, and the Eastlake fans will celebrate. And they'll celebrate the first conference win for their young head coach, Pat Parnell, who's had to come in here in relief of longtime coach Gene Dales, who resigned after the first 2 games of the season. Pat Parnell getting a big victory in a shutout of Seattle Prep a few weeks ago. They get their first conference win here, 34-23 over the Inglemoor Vikings. Ladies and gentlemen, we invite you to stay tuned to the PlayOnSports.com postgame coverage. We'll wrap up all the action in our postgame show just coming up in a few moments. Once again, Eastlake defeating Inglemoor 34-23 on Friday Night Football on PlayOnSports.com, your destination for high school sports.
We can get a player up here.
Oh, that's good stuff.
All right, perfect. Prepare a Wiley Ballard graphic.
Do you want me to start the stream?
Start the stream. Camera 3. Beautiful. We're coming in on 1.
For more information on how your school can join the Play On School broadcast program, go to playonsports.com/SBP.
Welcome to the PlayOnSports.com postgame show. We're working on getting an interview with our player of the game, Drew Lewis, and he is on his way up here, but some fantastic numbers for Lewis tonight.
Yeah, 222 yards rushing, 3 touchdowns, and also had 3 receptions for 36 yards and a touchdown as well. So multi-talented player, big physical, 6'1", 190 pounds, only a junior. Brother Ryan is a running back over at Pittsburgh, University of Pittsburgh, back in Pennsylvania, and so he definitely comes from a line of athletic people and things like that, and he's a player who definitely is going to make some noise the rest of this year.
And we're just moments away from having Drew Lewis with us. As here is Drew Lewis, our Play On Sports player of the game. Congratulations on the big win. Obviously, a lot of offensive numbers for you tonight, but more importantly, you guys get the big victory, your second win of the year, but the first one in conference play.
Yeah. I want to give a shout out to the line. They were doing a great job at blocking. I mean, I don't know about those refs. I should have got that one in the end zone they called back, but it's all good. We came out with a win.
Well, 4 touchdowns on the night. You get 3 on the ground, including the one that caps the victory in this one. Getting tense there for a while as the offense was held in check for a little bit. Inglemoor was starting to put together, had some great opportunities down there. You guys on defense were able to push them back, but offensively you really put the nail in the coffin with that big run at the end.
Yeah, honestly, I was just thinking don't fumble the ball, and then the hole just opened up and I got in there. And then fortunately we had 2 of those picks in the late fourth quarter, which kind of sealed the deal for us.
For you guys, this has been a trying year so far with the rough start, as well as Gene Dales, the head coach, resigning after the first 2 games. But you guys have really rallied around your new head coach and Pat Parnell and gotten things going in the right direction. The big win over Seattle Prep, and then getting your first league win here with this contest tonight.
Yeah. We honestly just worked hard in practice. We knew this would all pay off in the long run. That's exactly what happened. And we were all astonished when our coach told us he wasn't going to be coaching, because it was just like a split-second thing. Like we had no idea it was going to happen, so we just had to react to the adversity. And fortunately, we're still looking good so far.
Well, and you guys rebound now, and you can celebrate this one, but you don't have to wait too long before you have to focus on a new opponent, and you've got the Woodinville Falcons coming up next week. And right now, you guys back on track, right in the thick of things in the division race.
Yeah, I mean, Woodinville is definitely going to be a tough opponent to go against, but I think with all the preparation we're going through right now, we should definitely put up a good battle.
Well, congratulations, Drew. Congratulations on the victory and the big night here tonight.
Yeah, thank you very much.
All right, Drew Lewis, that was our player of the game. Don't go anywhere. The PlayOnSports.com postgame show continues in just a few moments on PlayOnSports.com, your destination for high school sports.
We can get a player up here.
Oh, that's good stuff.
All right, perfect. Prepare a Wiley Ballard graphic.
Do you want me to start the stream?
Start the stream. Camera 3, beautiful. We're coming in on 1.
For more information on how your school can join the Play On School broadcast program, go to playonsports.com/SBP.
Welcome back to Sammamish, Washington, and the PlayOnSports.com postgame show. I'm Alex Webster alongside Scott Eklund, and we just saw the Eastlake Wolves defeat the Inglemoor Vikings by a final score of 34-23. And we just had a great opportunity to talk with Drew Lewis, the player of the game, really accounting for as much of the offense as you might expect here on the board, other than one touchdown run by Blue Thomas. Drew Lewis had his hands on every score in this game.
Yeah, the Wolves had over 400 yards of total offense tonight, but Drew Lewis accounted for almost 270 yards of that. So big night for him. Also, the Wolves stepped up defensively. That's something that you have to be happy with if you're a Wolves fan. They were able to get 2 pickoffs at very important times. They were able to hold strong on defense down in the red zone, as well as when Inglemoor had the ball on their own 48-yard line, first down and 10, and they got no points out of it. That's something that you have to take away and say, hey, even though this was a lot closer than we wanted it to be,
it still ended up in our favor, and we made the plays when they need to be made.
Well, this game started with Eastlake moving the ball almost at will. They got down into the red zone, could not get it in from the 3-yard line. Inglemoor struggled a little bit offensively, but both teams put it into gear late in the first quarter as Drew Lewis picked up his first score, a 44-yard touchdown run. But just a few minutes later, Inglemoor came back, and Jake Jones, their main running back, scoring from 5 yards out to get the game even. That was a theme that we would see throughout the contest. Eastlake would go out in front. Inglemoor would rally back.
Yeah, they never let them get the ball rolling downhill so that it would snowball on them. They always were able to come back and make plays. But once again, when Eastlake needed to have a play, needed to make a defensive stop, they were able to do it. The only thing that really caused anybody a lot of concern, if you're on the Eastlake side, was getting that safety and then having to kick it, and they had a short field to go again. And Eastlake again stepped up, and that was when they got that interception.
Well, in the early going, after Inglemoor had tied it up at 7, Blue Thomas found Drew Lewis for a catch and run from 16 yards out for pretty much the next to last play of the first quarter. But, again, Inglemoor would come back. This time it was Hans Fortune taking advantage of play action because they had that running game going early to Jake Jones. That was something that they didn't find all that much in the second half, but at the first part, or rather the latter stages of the second quarter, they were able to use that play action effectively, and Fortune found Strathy for a 45-yard touchdown pass that evened things up at 14, but great clock management and a fantastic 2-minute drill put together by Blue Thomas as they were able to take it with about 1:36 left, leaving a little bit of time on the clock, go nearly the length of the field, and Blue Thomas called his own number, punched it in from 7 yards out, and so that tie was short-lived as Eastlake was able to get back on top and carry that momentum into the second half.
Yeah, and that really set the tone for the second half, going in right before halftime, being able to be up, and really Drew Lewis drove them right down on the very first drive of the second half, and they went over from 1 yard out, missed the extra point, so they were only up 13. And then we're going to talk about it in a second, but Inglemoor was able to score some points. But you never really felt like Inglemoor was completely in it, just because of the way that Eastlake was able to capitalize on some of the mistakes.
Well, as a team that came in 0-4, there was certainly no quit because there were several times in this game where they found themselves down, including a point when they found themselves down by 2 touchdowns, down by 13 points. But what do? Within another 2 minutes, they're back in the end zone, a 12-yard touchdown run by Max Vanderhoffen. And then things got a little interesting. It slowed down a little bit. We got into the fourth quarter. It remained a 6-point game for quite a while, and then it became a 4-point game because of a tremendous punt by Augustavo and great coverage by Inglemoor, downing it at the 1-yard line, which set up a safety as Drew Lewis was tackled in the end zone. That got it to a 4-point contest, and then Inglemoor had a few opportunities but just could not capitalize.
Yeah, and it's kind of the overriding thing for what we've been talking about is Eastlake made the plays when they needed to be made, especially down there when it was 4th and goal from about the 3-yard line, 4-yard line, whatever it was. And Inglemoor wasn't able to take it in. And that was a huge momentum turn. And it turns out that was a big reason why Inglemoor wasn't able to get the lead.
We didn't have any turnovers in the game until very late, a couple of unfortunate interceptions for Hans Fortune on back-to-back passes. One of them set up a 62-yard touchdown run by Drew Lewis, the capper in this ball game, and part of the reason why he was our player of the game with a fantastic 4-touchdown evening, 1 in the air and 3 on the ground.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and Drew Lewis, that's a name that people need to remember because he's going to be heard from in recruiting circles. It might not be Pac-12. It might be more like a Mountain West or a WAC school, but he is going to be playing at the next level and at a very high level as well.
Well, the Inglemoor Vikings fall to 0-5 and 0-2 in league. The injury bug just continues to roll up, and we do have our thoughts and well wishes out to Isaiah Lewis, where we had a very scary moment out here where we actually had to stop play for about 20 minutes while they tended to him, and he was unfortunately unable to get back to his feet. They took every precaution to take him out of the facility on a hard board and on a stretcher, and we hope that he is doing okay and that he'll be able to recover and return to football form. And so our thoughts are with them, but the injury bug has been a common theme for Inglemoor this year, and it strikes again.
Yeah, it was. And
they're hoping to be able to get some people back. Mikey Tupou, their middle linebacker, kind of their emotional leader, he is expected back. He's hoping in the next week or so. And then maybe even some other guys who have been dinged up and missed tonight's game that they could use as well. So I don't think this team is down and out. I think they've got a lot of good leadership, and they're a team that really needs to just stay focused on winning and playing the hardest they can, because they have some talent on that team. A lot more than I thought they did, because when I watched them earlier this year, they got destroyed by Meadowdale, who's one of the best teams in the state at the 3A level, but it wasn't even close. And then Fortune comes out and throws for 170, 180 yards, a lot of it to Strathey, who had 120 yards himself. And I was pleasantly surprised with what we saw. I thought we were going to see a track meet and a lot of the favor of Eastlake, but we didn't see that tonight.
Inglemoor will return to Pop Keeney next week to host Redmond. That'll be a great opportunity for them to get a win in a victory in the win column, as Redmond, a team that has struggled to a 1-3 mark this season. Meanwhile, the Eastlake Wolves kind of rejuvenated here. They've won 2 out of their last 3 after an 0-2 start. They're now 2-3 on the season, 1-1 in Crest Division action. And next week they'll take on one of the folks that they have a bit of a rivalry with, as they will take on Woodinville. This is a team that they took on for the KingCo Championships last year, and were able to secure the victory in that one, and they're going to hope to return the favor. But they will have that one here in the friendly confines of their own stadium. So an opportunity to build on the momentum as they head out right back here to the stadium next week to take on one of the leading teams in their division.
Yeah, they have one of the best home field advantages with the crowd that they bring in. They have great student support, great alumni support, and great booster support here at Eastlake High School. So it should be a great atmosphere next week against a very good Well, I won't say a very good, because they aren't quite up to what they were last year when they were also loaded with a bunch of seniors on their team. But Woodinville's a lot better than a lot of us thought they were going to be.
Well, that's going to wrap it up from Eastlake High School, where the Eastlake Wolves defeat the Inglemoor Vikings 34-23. We'd like to thank you for joining PlayOnSports.com's coverage of Friday Night Football from Sammamish, Washington. Be sure to check PlayOnSports.com for information and links to all of our upcoming broadcasts. For our producer, Rylan Spencer, our videographer, Brian Hayes, and my partner, Scott Eklund, I'm Alex Webster saying so long, and we hope you'll join us next Friday night on your destination for high school sports and Friday Night Football, PlayOnSports.com. Good night, everybody.
One match away from immortality.
This is a total team effort.